This paladin is so despicable. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, The Shame of the Paladin. Heaven and earth, please help me. The goddess of light will show up. A strange exorcism ceremony is taking place in the manor of Earl Lawrence. Wright is wearing heavy paladin armor, holding the priest's scepter in one hand and a water bag filled with so-called holy water in the other. He danced like a witch dance of a barbarian tribe, while chanting something. Coupled with the hazy swaying shadows under the bonfire, the whole scene exudes an indescribable sense of distortion. Such a strange way of exorcism naturally attracted a lot of discussion from the onlookers, and even the guards who maintained order cast suspicious eyes. But even so, Wright still performed the so-called exorcism ceremony without changing his face or heart. Including today, he has been eating and drinking in Lawrence Manor for 15 days under the pretext of exorcism. As time goes by, everyone's attitude has changed from enthusiastic at the beginning to questioning first, and then questioning again. If it weren't for the identity of Paladin, he would have been kicked out long ago. After all, the Holy Light Church is the largest religious cult on the continent of a dream, and it is also the state religion of the Principality of St. Grant. The clergy enjoy a transcendent status here, and the paladins who represent holiness and justice are even more respected. But it has been so many days, and it is indeed time to show some decent achievements. Fortunately, he has been prepared for it. After all, he has done such things more than once. Father, quickly order to stop this stupid farce. Emily, the daughter of the Earl and the eldest lady of the Lawrence family, looked at Wright with disgust. As an excellent magic apprentice, she knew very well that this so-called paladin had done nothing serious in the past 15 days except wandering around and teasing the maids. This is not an exorcism at all, but a funny and poor performance. He is a liar. Please order him to be arrested. Earl Lawrence was embarrassed, but the holy light he summoned is extremely holy, and his interpretation of the holy scriptures is also very profound. Especially he has the silver medal of the paladin. He doesn't look like a fake at all. Father, your so-called paladin was arrested on the spot for being drunk and making trouble in the tavern on the first day he came here. After taking him to live in the manor, this man insisted that he could tell a person's future fortune from the palm lines, and then used this as an excuse to tease and harass the maid in the house. Every day he is either wandering around idly or running to the town to eat, drink and fight. He often shouts something. Today's consumption will be paid by Earl Lawrence. And then he owes a lot of money for wine. He is lazy, greedy for women, alcoholic and hurting people. Is he related to the paladin who symbolizes love and justice? Count Lawrence was in a dilemma. What if we catch the wrong person? We can't afford the wrath of the church. The staff mage standing next to the count also said, Emily, don't worry. A few days ago, I asked the Knight Commander to lead a team to the Holy Light Cathedral in the capital to verify his identity. Calculating the time, there should be a reply soon. If he wants to make trouble, let him do it. If the ritual has no effect in the end, we don't have to wait for a reply. We can punish him directly. Isn't it better this way? But, Teacher Massilian, Holy Light, hurry up. Before Emily finished speaking, Wright suddenly jumped in front of them and shouted, and suddenly sprinkled the holy water in his hand in the direction of the city lord. Caught off guard, the holy water hit the three people's faces directly, and the originally noisy crowd suddenly quieted down. In addition to the crackling sound of the bonfire burning on the square, there was only the dripping sound of water drops sliding down the faces of the three people. The people looked at the three city lords in shock, wondering if the devil was one of them. However, after a while, nothing happened. Miss Emily, who had been dissatisfied, gritted her teeth and suppressed her anger. Dear Paladin, is this what you call an exorcism ceremony? Where is the devil? Wright saw that there was no response, and he couldn't help but feel dissatisfied, but he still pretended to be unfathomable. Don't worry, let the holy water fly for a while. Enough. You shameless liar, you dare to fool the Lawrence family. Come, give it to me. Before she finished speaking, a girl's whine suddenly came from her side. Ah, it's holy water. Damn holy water. A little girl struggled to get out of the shadow of Earl Lawrence and flew into the air with smoke all over her body. She has the horns of a sheep, the wings of a bat, and a long tail. Although she is petite, she exudes a fatal temptation from head to toe. Devil. It's really a devil. Everyone, run. The onlookers exclaimed, and the guard suddenly became nervous. The Earl was so scared that his face turned pale, and Emily was even more shocked. Is there really a devil? At this critical moment, Wright stepped forward. Everyone, stay calm. A little devil can't make any waves. Holy light, watch me take her. The devil flapped its petite wings and roared with its fangs and claws. Disgusting tin can. How dare you ruin my good deeds? I want your life. You don't know how high the sky is and how deep the earth is, and you are still shouting here. You don't take me seriously at all. Wright immediately posed in a handsome posture, and the purest holy light emerged from his body, instantly illuminating the night. The warm holy light soothed people's hearts and made the devil avoid it. Holy dragon of light. Holy light spell. The holy god of the world. Execute me. The surging holy light formed the shadow of a sacred dragon in the air, and a breath of dragon breath knocked the devil back to the ground. Wright held up the water bag filled with holy water and shouted, "Collect." "Oh no, I'm so unwilling," the little devil cried unwillingly, and turned into a puff of purple smoke, and was collected into the bottle. The whole process was smooth and flowed, as if it had been rehearsed. Praise the holy light. Praise the holy light. The onlookers no longer dared to doubt Wright's identity. They knelt down devoutly and kept praising the greatness of the holy light goddess. "Lord Paladin, you are truly extraordinary and powerful. Thank you for saving us from the devil's harm." Wright waved his hand upon hearing this. "Don't take it lightly. Although this devil has been expelled, it has not been completely expelled. The devil's legacy still remains on this land. If the devil is not thoroughly exorcised, diseases will occur. Plague. Doom. Curse. In short, the harm will be endless. Well, what should we do? Lord Paladin, you have to save us." On the surface, Wright looked compassionate. "Holy light, as a glorious paladin, how can I watch you die without saving you? For now, only a large amount of holy water can save everyone." At this point, Wright suddenly stepped back. "So, where can I buy holy water?" Then he stood back to his original position. "Good question. You are all here. Today I will make holy water for you on the spot. Are you afraid of being invaded by demons? Are you afraid of being cursed? Are you afraid of being troubled by diseases? A bottle of holy water. Solve 3 major problems at once. With holy water in hand, exorcism is worry-free. Don't miss it. If you pass by, only 98 copper pesos for 1 bottle. Unprecedented cost effectiveness. What are you waiting for? Go home and get some water. Only 98. Holy water made by the paladin. Take it home. The scene fell into silence again, but soon someone got up and ran home, and then the onlookers turned around and went home to get water. Even the guards responsible for maintaining order were no exception. Looking at the panicked crowd, Wright quietly breathed a sigh of relief, and a barely perceptible arc appeared at the corner of his mouth. Looking at the back of this mysterious man, Emily was a little absent-minded for a moment. In her impression, the paladin was so majestic and tall. But this man and what he did was simply a blasphemy against the paladin. But the bright and pure holy light and the exquisite badge did not seem to be fake. At this moment, a crow descended from the sky, landed on the shoulder of the black-robed wizard, and spit out a copper tube. The old wizard took it, and took out a small scroll of letters from it. After taking a look, he was shocked. "Teacher, what's wrong? You can read it yourself." Emily took the letter and covered her mouth in surprise. "A wanted order issued by the tribunal. Disaster level?" The old wizard's eyes flashed with a fierce light. "No matter what, he can't get away." Chapter 2. There's poison in the milk. It was a dark and windy night. A figure quietly turned over and walked out of the Lawrence family's manor and fled into the mountains and forests in the north under the cover of night. He was heading deep into the mountains and forests while erasing his footprints. Such a careful person was Wright, who had just made a fortune. Although copper pesos are not as good as silver drang and gold mark, a little bit of money accumulated is also a considerable income. Wright stopped under a big tree and carefully observed whether there were any pursuers behind him. The water bag on his waist suddenly trembled. Oh, I know. Wright impatiently took off the bottle and pulled out the cork. A light purple smoke gushed out, turning into the little succubus who had just been subdued. She rode on his neck and grabbed his hair and ears angrily. You stinky Wright, you actually used so much force. Do you know how much it hurts? You still say that? How many times have I told you? When the holy water is sprinkled on the target, it will come out immediately. But you are always either too early or too late. Can't you have a little professionalism? I can make up for it if it's too late, but it's hard to make up for it if it's too early. What? Do you want to show that I'm an accurate shooter? Who told you to spend so much time on each exorcism ceremony? I fell asleep. Fell asleep? Life, beautiful girl. Also, do you want to listen to what you said? Our exorcism ceremony is at night. Which succubus from a good family can fall asleep at night? You are a shame of succubus. The little succubus was ashamed and angry, and her face was flushed. You still have the nerve to say that to me? You are the most despicable paladin in history. Don't you often say that the goddess of holy light has a problem with her character, is nothing, and is worse than shit? Then why when you made the holy water, you kept saying may the goddess of holy light bless you, and shouted so devoutly? Hypocritical. Disgusting. Wright rolled his eyes immediately. You know nothing. The holy light goddess is like the legal person of the holy light church. As an employee of a company, I have to do business under the banner of the holy light goddess. I will make money. She will take the blame. How can I let go of such a good thing? Forget it. You won't understand, even if I tell you, you idiot with a cerebral cortex as flat as your chest. Wow. I'll bite you to death. Hey. Let go. If you put your feet in my mouth again, don't blame me for turning hostile. Whoosh. While the man and the demon were arguing, an arrow shot out. Wright held down the little succubus with one hand and caught the hidden arrow steadily with his other hand. Lilith, stop making trouble. We have friends coming. Before he finished speaking, a group of fully armed soldiers rushed over from all directions and surrounded him. Emily, the daughter of the Earl, and the old magician just now separated the crowd and stood not far in front of Wright. Teacher is really smart. He really wants to run away tonight. Wright tucked the succubus Lilith under his armpit and looked at her with a smile. Miss Emily, don't say such harsh words. What do you mean by running away? This is called leaving after the matter is done, hiding the merits and fame. The crisis here is resolved, but the whole world is still eager for my salvation. Emily sneered. You want to change places and continue to cheat, Mr. Wright. Oh no, maybe I should call you His Highness Saint Wright. The smile on Wright's face gradually disappeared, and his eyes narrowed slightly. You, check me. His Highness Saint Wright, one of the 5 candidates for the Holy Sun. 5 years ago, he appeared in the Holy City like lightning. Because of his rare full level light element affinity in 1,000 years, he was accepted as a disciple by His Holiness the Pope and the legendary paladin Constant. In just 2 years, many legends have been left behind. The shame of the paladin, the turbid light, the holy sin, the unforgivable person, the disrespectful person. During the Holy Advent Festival 3 years ago, I was exiled by the church for blasphemy against the goddess of holy light. I was listed as a wanted criminal of the natural disaster level by the Inquisition. Wright scratched his ears with a look of disdain on his face. Ha ha ha, am I so famous? That's right, black and red are also red. Looking at Miss Emily's posture, are you going to tie me up and send me to the holy city to claim the reward? Emily pulled out her staff and glared at him angrily. So what? As a paladin, you are colluding with the devil and swindling people everywhere. Not only will I capture you and take you to the holy city, I will also make you return the money you cheated from the people. You shameless man. What are you talking about? What I sell is authentic holy water. You may not know the goods, but you can't slander my reputation. Emily curled her lips. Do you still need us to slander your reputation? Come on, arrest him for me. With an order, the soldiers surrounded them. One of the burly warriors took the lead, raised his battle axe, and rushed forward with big strides. I really was underestimated. Wright was not in a hurry. He gathered the holy light on his fingertips and gently stroked it. A holy healing spell fell on the attacking warrior. Emily frowned slightly. thinking that this man was scared, and actually released a healing spell on the enemy. However, the next moment, the charging warrior suddenly staggered and hit the big tree next to him with a bang. Tripped. Emily couldn't believe it. The man who just went into battle was a strong man of the 5th silver level. Even in the entire Principality of St. Grant, he was considered a master. I dare not say that he is invincible, but it is still easy to fight 1 against 100. Even in the mountains and forests, being tripped is too funny. So powerful. The old wizard Massilian, who had been silent all the time, suddenly spoke, his voice a little hoarse. He just controlled the holy healing precisely and amplified the power of Johnson's left leg alone. This caused Johnson to lose his balance at the moment of exerting force and hit the tree. To be able to do this, your precision must be very high. Emily couldn't help but take a breath when she heard this. She followed her teacher to learn magic knowledge, so she naturally knew the principle of holy healing. It was a kind of magic spell that stimulated the vitality of the human body through the addition of light element and divine power to achieve the purpose of healing injuries and restoring physical strength in a short period of time. Unexpectedly, the man in front of him could actually perform holy healing on a part of the human body to interfere with the enemy's actions. This technique is unheard of. If you don't see it with your own eyes, it's hard to imagine. Wright grinned. Oh, it seems that Mr. Massilian knows what he is talking about. A few years ago, when I first came into contact with holy healing, I found that most clergy use the method of flooding to ensure the treatment effect. In order to improve holy healing, I developed holy healing modified to be able to perform local treatment in a small area. But in practice, I found that, if part of the target is overtreated, it will have a more explosive effect. For example, Wright waved his hand, and a holy light fell on one of them. The man suddenly showed pain, and jumped up, as if he had stepped on a nail. My calf is cramping. Then several more holy lights fell, and the people who were hit wailed. My eyelids are twitching. I can't control it at all. My heart is beating so fast. I'm so flustered, I feel like it's going to explode. My throat, breathing. Emily looked at the crooked guards, her face full of horror. Is this holy healing? This is simply evil magic. Why can a paladin turn the divine arts that represent light and salvation into such a weird and twisted one? Haha, that's really funny. The little succubus Lilith poked her head out and looked at the other party with a sneer on her face. Do you think he is just a lazy liar, so you are so excited to arrest him? Think about it carefully. There are so many legends about him in the church, all of which accuse him of despicable behavior. But, has anyone ever questioned his strength? Lilith's words made everyone at the scene feel like they were falling into an ice cellar. Only then did they realize what a powerful enemy they were about to face. Seeing this, the old wizard Massilian took out his staff and gathered several wind blades, shooting them towards Wright. Wright was not in a hurry and casually opened the holy light shield to block them all. But the wind blades continued, forcing him to keep the defensive holy shield. Come together. He can't maintain so many delicate operations at the same time. Emily woke up, as if from a dream, and cast magic together to cooperate with her teacher to suppress him. The soldiers around also gathered their courage and rushed forward with a roar. You know nothing about being strong. After saying that, the holy light on Wright's body bloomed, forming a 10-meter sized golden light domain. All the enemies who rushed into this light domain stopped, covered their stomachs, and knelt on the ground with strange expressions. What did you do? Nothing. I just opened the magic circle barrier I created. Anyone who enters this light domain will be blessed by the holy light. The effect is that the intestinal peristalsis is accelerated, the metabolism is improved, and they can release themselves anytime and anywhere. Oh. Or call it diarrhea, which is more helpful for your understanding. I call this move social death domain. As the stench spread in the air, the faces of the soldiers who were not hit in the back changed drastically, and they shrank back and dared not move forward. Especially Miss Emily, just by being in Wright's eyes, she was frightened and retreated one after another. If I were hit by this move, I might as well die. Weird. This person is too weird. He is obviously a believer of holy light, a clergyman, a paladin of justice and benevolence. Why is he so despicable every time he attacks? The old wizard also looked ugly and struggled. Finally, he made up his mind and pulled out an ancient scroll from his sleeve and lit it instantly. In an instant, the holy light bloomed and turned into countless tiny chains of light, entwining towards Wright. Holy shackles. Wright didn't expect the other party to have this trick. Seeing the chains coming and unable to avoid them, he threw the little succubus Lilith away with all his strength. The next moment, he was entangled by the chains. These chains were imprinted on his skin through his clothes, like shackles. At the same time, the holy shield in front of him and the holy light barrier around him dissipated. Uncan. Go. I'm fine. Lilith didn't dare to stay and quickly flapped her wings to escape. Massilian was overjoyed when he saw this success. All his magic has been sealed. Come on. Catch him. Seeing that the holy light around Wright had indeed dissipated, the others mustered up their courage and rushed forward to put their swords on his neck. The old wizard quickly came to Wright and looked at him coldly. How do you feel? Where did you get this magic scroll that is banned by the church? What is your relationship with the Tower of Truth? Don't worry about this. The old wizard Massilian waved his long sleeves. Emily, you take people to catch him and put him in the dungeon, and I will continue to catch the escaped demon. After all, that is the most important evidence that he raises demons. Yes, teacher. Things changed too quickly like a tornado. Emily was a little unable to react and just subconsciously did what the teacher said. Wright, who was sealed with the holy shackles, did not resist. He looked at the old wizard with a smile as he turned and left, and then followed Emily obediently towards Lawrence Manor. When they arrived at the entrance of the dungeon, the guards came up to them. Miss, why are you here? Lock this man up and keep him under strict watch. Yes. The guards quickly opened the dungeon door, and a foul smell came out of the dungeon. Emily was here for the first time, and she couldn't help but frown. What's that smell? Wright, who had been silent, suddenly laughed. Rotten, moldy, and a stench of corpses. Miss Emily, don't you think the smell is a little familiar? For example, have you smelled it on your respected teacher before? Chapter 3. Do you believe in light? Emily frowned slightly. What nonsense are you talking about? The smell of death is so unique. Its top note is fear, its middle note is pain, and its base note is resentment. Once people smell it, they will never forget it. No matter how strong or complex the perfume is, it can't cover it up. Wright took a deep breath and exhaled slowly, because this is a living individual's instinctive resistance and vigilance to death. Emily glared at Wright angrily. Enough. Don't think of throwing dirty water on him while the teacher is away. Since I was 8 years old, he has served as a magic consultant in the Lawrence family and taught me magical knowledge. He has worked diligently and uncomplainingly for 10 years. You have only been here for a few days, and you are trying to sow discord between us? Wright laughed after hearing this. Indeed, you have a deep relationship as master and apprentice. In order to help you catch me, your teacher is even willing to take out the priceless forbidden scroll. Looking at Emily's confused look, Wright raised his head and revealed the brand on his neck. Why, didn't your teacher teach you? The full name of the holy shackle is a sacred shackle. It can block the connection between clergy and gods and is the nemesis of all clergy. This is a forbidden technique developed by the great wizards of the Tower of Truth during the Holy War 100 years ago in order to restrain the clergy. After the Holy War, the Tower of Truth was destroyed, and the forbidden method was lost. All the finished magic scrolls were also destroyed, and only a small part survived. How can I describe to you how precious it is? Probably, a family thief like yours, Lawrence, can buy 3 and still be rich. The money your teacher earned from working 2 jobs for 10 years can't even afford a corner of the scroll. Don't say nonsense, like you can get your money back with a bonus by catching me and sending me to the holy city. If the Church of Holy Light sees the traces of the holy shackle seal on me, they will issue a massacre order against your family's territory in a minute, and they will shake the yolk off your eggs. Your teacher actually has this thing in his hand. Aren't you curious about where he got it from? What is his true identity? What is he preparing this thing to guard against? Emily was a little dazed by Wright's rapid-fire questions, but she soon stabilized her mind and tried to squeeze out a slight sneer. Haha, you made up these nonsense. Do you think I will be fooled? Take him in and keep him under strict supervision. Oh, yes, I'm talking nonsense. But don't forget, I was eating and drinking for free in your house under the gimmick of exorcising demons. Wright didn't intend to continue arguing with the other party. After leaving a puzzling remark, he was taken to the dungeon. Watching his back disappear in the depths of the dungeon, Emily quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Although this person's magic has been sealed, the words just now are still like the whispers of the devil. It feels that, if you are not careful, he will be fooled by him. He is eating and drinking for free in my house under the gimmick of removing demons. After tossing all night, it was already dawn. Emily couldn't help but think about this sentence as she walked towards the restaurant. But until she sat in the dining room, she still didn't understand what Wright wanted to say. The diligent maids had already started to put breakfast on the table. Emily picked up the tableau woodenly and watched the maid put the tableau for that annoying guy and subconsciously said, "Oh, there is no need to put Wright's tableau today." "Ah, miss, has Mr. Wright left?" One of the maids looked a little lonely. "What a pity, I haven't thanked him in person yet." "Yes, I also prepared a gift." Emily was a little amused. She didn't expect that the liar had so many supporters. "You like him very much?" Several maids blushed when they heard this, and one of the girls with a more outgoing personality did not deny it. "Although Mr. Wright is a little unkempt, he is actually quite handsome. The most important thing is that he expelled the devil and helped my father get revenge. Yes, the souls of my brother and my mother can also rest in peace." Emily was suddenly shocked when she heard these words. Recently, all her attention has been on how to expose Wright's scam, and she has forgotten the most important thing. Before he appeared, there had been bizarre murders in the Lawrence family's territory. There were rumors that demons were haunting the fiefdom, causing panic among the people. At this moment, the man appeared in everyone's sight as a paladin and moved into the Lawrence manor under the pretext of exorcism. Now that it has been confirmed that his exorcism ritual was a self-directed scam to make money, who committed the initial murders? Emily widened her eyes and couldn't help but start to think wildly. After he came to the manor, although he has been making trouble, there have been no more murders in the town. Then either he is a serial killer and does all this to cheat money, or the real murderer is in the manor on weekdays. Emily couldn't help asking despite her inner resistance. "Do you have any unwashed clothes for Teacher Massilian? Or sheets and quilts are also fine." "Should have some. Quick, bring them to me." The maids looked at each other, not knowing why their mistress would have such a strange request so early in the morning, but they still hurried to the laundry room of the manor. Emily sat at the dining table, constantly muttering to herself, "I'm doing this to prove the teacher's innocence." At the same time, Wright was lying in the cell of the dungeon, humming a folk song from his hometown. "And or Erin Window Erin Chainlands holding Erin Window lecking outside. Oh, stop singing, it's so ugly." The little succubus Lilith poked her head out of the wall and looked at him with a smile. "TSK, TSK, TSK, I didn't expect you to have this day. How about it? Do you want me to save you? Beg me. Call me Lady Lilith first." Although there were other prisoners and guards in the cell, they could not see Lilith in her spirit state at all. Wright rolled his eyes at the other person. "Why do you want to go out?" A luxurious independent single room with pure prison style. A round straw bed, a prison sentence, but no single cell. Ingenious iron bars, it can be used as a prison or a jail. Lilith crawled out from the wall and sat on his shoulder. Okay, you're awesome. Then tell me, why did you choose to surrender? What are you planning?" "I thought this time would be the same as last time, with another crazy magician who abandoned humanity in order to seek wisdom. Now it seems that it's not that simple." Lilith was also puzzled. "Then why did he kill so many people?" Wright turned over and lay on the straw bed, crossing his legs. "Why do you have to do it yourself when you encounter a difficult problem? Wouldn't it be better to just lie down and wait for the question setter to announce the correct answer?" "Ah, that's so boring. It's called waiting for the right thing to do." "Boring? Here's an exciting task for you. The remnants of the Tower of Truth have appeared. You go notify the nearest tribunal and ask them to come and arrest them." Lilith rolled her eyes. Only the man in front of her could say such a thing as asking a demon to go to the tribunal of the Church of Holy Light to deliver a message. If you can't do it, try something simpler. You go hide in Emily's shadow now and make sure she can live until the truth comes out. Lilith was unhappy and spoke sourly. You are so precious to her. Are you attracted to her? Humph. I know you like big-breasted and brainless girls the most. Wright didn't say anything, but just waved his hand impatiently. Lilith pouted and turned to leave the cell. Looking at the roof of the cell, Wright kept reviewing the details of the past few days in his mind. After lying dormant for 10 years, he suddenly started killing people. Either the time has come, or the opportunity has come. Hey, little brother, how did you get in? It was already bright at this time, and the prisoners in the surrounding cages woke up one after another. When they found the new prisoner, they were as happy as if they had found a new toy, and even caused quite a commotion. The dungeon guards hurried over, hitting the iron cage with a stick, and scolding the dishonest prisoners. Wright stood up, stretched his waist, and smiled kindly. I didn't expect it to be so lively here. I'll do some spiritual civilization construction. Friends, do you believe in light? Chapter the 4th of May the Holy Light Deceive You. Emily's face was gloomy, and she walked quickly towards the dungeon. Suspicion is like a seed. Once planted, it will take root and sprout uncontrollably. Just now, she smelled the strange odor again on her teacher Massillion's clothes. As the man said, the smell of death is so special that, even if her teacher has used a lot of magic potions to remove the smell and cover it up, it still cannot be completely eradicated. Then she took advantage of the fact that Master Massillion was not in the manor and began a full-scale inquiry investigation. The conclusion is that, whether it is the time of the crime or the physical evidence, her teacher is a major suspect in the homicide. When the facts were laid out, Emily was stunned. Years of trust made her never doubt her teacher at all. Perhaps it was because of this trust that the old wizard covered up the traces of the crime very sloppily. But even so, Emily still refused to admit it. She didn't know why she came to the dungeon, perhaps hoping that the man's sharp sarcasm could completely shatter her remaining fantasy. But when she came to the entrance of the dungeon, she was dumbfounded. Where's the dungeon? Where's such a big dungeon of our Laren's family? It was still here this morning. How come in just one morning, this place has become a bustling construction site? Why has the originally narrow and dark entrance been widened 3 times? Why are the guards at the door sitting on the stone pier with the prisoners, wiping their sweat and drinking water while chatting and laughing? From time to time, people carry garbage and waste out of the passage, talking and laughing in groups of 2, full of enthusiasm. Those who know that this is a dungeon would think that an underground palace is being built here. The guard of the dungeon saw Emily and quickly stood up to greet her. Ah, Miss Emily, you are here. May the holy light bless you. The other prisoners and guards also saluted. May the holy light protect you. Emily's eyes widened, her face full of disbelief. Holy light? Have you all become believers of the holy light? Although the Church of the Holy Light is the state religion of the Principality of St. Grant, and the people generally believe in the goddess of the Holy Light, the 2 groups of people in front of them should have been exceptions. The guards of the cell are the private soldiers of the Laren's family. They have been raised by the Laren's family since they were young and only believe in the Laren's family in their hearts. As for the prisoners in the dungeon, it goes without saying that, if they were really good believers of the Holy Light, they would not commit crimes and be arrested. What's more, this place was fine this morning. The guard's face was filled with a happy smile. To be precise, it is conversion. We were originally believers of the Holy Light, but we didn't realize it. It was Mr. Wright who awakened us and allowed us to return to the embrace of the Holy Light and find our original true selves. Praise the Holy Light. It turned out to be that guy who was making trouble. Where is he? Sir, he is doing morning lessons. It's already morning. What morning lessons? Take me to see him. Quick. The guard didn't say anything and turned around with Emily and entered the dungeon. At this time, not only was the passage widened, but even the stairs were renovated and reinforced, making it more suitable for walking up and down. The interior of the dungeon was also thriving, and the guards and prisoners were doing a general cleaning. A large amount of garbage was swept away, and some people were carrying clean water to sprinkle and wipe. The dark and smelly cell was completely renewed with the efforts of everyone, and the air was filled with the smell of water vapor and dust. Under the guidance of the guard, Emily came to the door of Wright's cell. I don't know when a skylight was opened in the dungeon, and a beam of light shone down, just falling on Wright. In the dim cell, this scene looked particularly sacred. Coupled with his vicissitudes of life, melancholy eyes and handsome face, Emily was actually a little fascinated for a while. "Since you are here, come in and sit down." Emily woke up from her dream, and after the guard opened the cell door, she walked in carefully. "What on earth have you done? How come the dungeon has become such a mess in just one morning? That's really unconscionable. Your dungeon was a mess before. Isn't it good now?" Without even raising his head, Wright shouted loudly, "Come on. Recite the slogan." In an instant, everyone in the cell stopped what they were doing, raised their heads and chests, and recited in unison. "Holy light people. Holy light souls. Holy light people are all the best. Work hard. Work hard. A better life is in our hands." After shouting the slogan, they enthusiastically threw themselves into their new work. Emily looked at the scene in horror, and didn't come back to her senses for a long time. What on earth did you do to them?" Wright spread his hands. "Nothing. I just made them realize that life could be beautiful and meaningful. The reason why they are living such a hard and painful life now is because they have not found the right way. Just like a fish wants to soar into the sky and a bird wants to travel around the world, suffering will naturally follow. But the holy light can guide them to find themselves, get their lives back on track, and make their lives meaningful." "Really? Really?" Wright rolled his eyes. "Of course it's fake. I just had nothing to do, so I helped them cleanse their minds. In addition, the environment in your dungeon is really bad, so I thought of an excuse to trick these people into doing a big cleaning and improving their living environment. If you can be happy, as long as you believe in the holy light, then why did you fight the holy war 100 years ago? Are the rebels all masochists who hope their lives will be unhappy?" As a noble, Emily is naturally a believer in the goddess of holy light. Seeing him like this, she couldn't help but get angry. "As a paladin, do you treat your faith like this? Let's make this clear. My profession is a paladin, but I'm a holy light pragmatist." "Holy light, practical?" Wright grinned. "What I mean is, holy light is to be used, not to be believed in. Useful holy light is good holy light. Compared with those so-called doctrines, precepts, codes, and obligations, I care more about how much benefit, convenience, and privilege the holy light can bring me. Compared with studying the holy scriptures, practicing divine arts, and praying devoutly to the goddess of holy light, I'm more interested in how to use the holy scriptures, divine arts, the church and the goddess, to achieve the purpose or effect I want." "Despicable and shameless. You are blaspheming the holy light book. It is even more disrespectful to the goddess of holy light. Why would a despicable person like you be favored by the holy light? It's so unfair." The word fairness is not something you, a noble lady, can say, right? The annual revenue of the tavern in the town is not as much as the weekly expenditure of the Earl's manor, not to mention the serfs and tenants who work so hard. If you really like fairness, why don't you spend all your wealth to help the poor people? Emily blushed, but couldn't think of any rebuttal, so she could only breathe heavily. Wright laughed at this. "Okay, don't be angry like a little toad. I'm not interested in your noble's trivial matters. You came here to find me, not for fairness, right? Tell me, didn't you find something? Oh, or did you finally find it?" Chapter 5, Evil Fairy Tale. "Since you have known that there is something wrong with the teacher, why didn't you say it earlier?" Wright picked his ear and narrowed his eyes. "Because it's too troublesome." "Is it troublesome to prove that he is a murderer?" "It's troublesome to go through the process." At this point, a hint of impatience flashed in Wright's eyes. "Prove that he is a murderer, expose his crimes in public, and nail him down with flawless logic and evidence. Then, listen to his mental journey from a normal person to a criminal. Finally, give a moving closing statement and hand him over to the Holy Tribunal or the Imperial Guard. On a sunny and refreshing autumn day, execute him in public, to set the record straight. For you, all this is a matter of course. But for me, this is just a small episode on the road, not worth my time and energy." Emily was a little unconvinced. "Then what you did is right. Exorcism, give the people an explanation. Holy water, let them regain the courage to live. After I fade out of everyone's sight, I will take advantage of the murderer's relaxation of vigilance, and then quietly return to kill him, pretending it to be an accident. Compared with the process that often takes a year or two, it can be said to be simple, fast, and worry-free. Emily was a little dissatisfied with his firm tone. "Why are you so arrogant? The teacher is only a suspect now and has not been convicted yet. Don't you still have to go through the process? Then can you guarantee that you are right? Before I kill someone, I will let Lilith read the other person's memory to ensure that there is no mistake." "Oh, Lilith is the little succubus who follows me." Emily took several steps back in disgust. "You are a paladin, but you are mixed with demons." "You." Wright laughed disdainfully. "Have you heard of fallen angels? Since the devil can make angels fall, why can't the goddess of light make demons change their ways? Or do you think that the goddess of light is not as good as the devil? Nothing. A useless thing. A low energy god who can only talk. I don't have it. Don't talk nonsense." Emily was frightened and kept praying to the goddess of light, asking for forgiveness. And she was sure that the man's words just now were mixed with strong personal grudges. After praying, Emily glared at Wright fiercely. "Humph. I've heard that succubi have beautiful bodies and unparalleled beauty, which is what men desire most. The succubus next to you is thin and small like a little girl. Wow. Are you a pervert with some special fetish?" Wright jumped up and stepped on Emily's restless shadow, dancing anxiously. Hey, you can talk nonsense. You can't talk nonsense about food. You can insult my personality, but you can't doubt my fetish. Of course, I like sexy girls with big breasts, long legs, thin waists and good looks." Emily narrowed her eyes, obviously not believing it. "You are indifferent to questioning your piety to the holy light. But on this issue, you won't give in? To be honest, I don't understand you." "Nonsense. Scolding the boss will at most lead to unemployment, but social death will lead to disqualification from the world." Emily looked at the light from the skylight and spoke again after a long silence. "The teacher hasn't come back yet. Has he run away?" Wright laughed after hearing this. "Your teacher will definitely come back. Most of the mages in the Tower of Truth are paranoid lunatics. What's more, he has been planning this for 10 years and has consumed the precious Holy Shackle Scroll. Even if it is to recover the losses, it is impossible for him to run away with his tail between his legs. I guess he will take action tonight." "What makes you so sure?" "Because the punishment Black Knights of the Inquisition are coming." Wright closed the book in his hand. "You know my identity. You should have asked someone to go to the Cathedral of St. Grant to verify it, right? Then the Inquisition should have received the news at the same time. Now, batches of punishment Black Knights are on their way on horseback. They arrested me, but it was just a factional struggle within the Holy See. But to eliminate the remnants of the Tower of Truth, that is irreconcilable. If it falls into their hands, the end. TSK. So he will definitely take action before the Black Knights arrive." "What do you keep talking about? The Tower of Truth? What is that?" After hearing this, Wright showed the book in his hand. "Have you read this book? A collection of fairy tales and fables? I read it when I was a child. I just borrowed this from the prison boss. It was a gift he bought for his daughter." Wright flipped through the book. "Although it is different from the fairy tales and fables I read, they have most of the same things. For example, this Toad Prince, this Beauty and the Beast, and the Princess Who Sleeps." Emily interrupted him impatiently. "What do you want to say? Don't you think these fairy tales are actually terrible?" Wright threw the book to Emily. "A prince of a country was turned into a toad because he laughed at a witch. When the king held a full moon party for his daughter, he forgot to send an invitation to a witch. As a result, his daughter was cursed and never woke up, and the whole country was destroyed. Maybe the fairy tale has a happy ending in the end, and the prince and princess finally live happily together. But what about real life? Are there really people like witches in reality, or are there people with even colder and worse personalities, and more cruel and crazy methods? You are also a magician. I believe that you will also have such a feeling in your magic learning career. The operation of the world is clearly visible, and the development of all things can be traced. The mysterious veil is peeled off layer by layer, and human nature is also being wiped out bit by bit. In the end, only the exploration of truth and the desire for power are left in the mind, and the corresponding ore is lost. In your eyes, people are just a pile of walking matter. The country is just a sandbox game that can be torn down and rebuilt at any time. You can turn a person into a frog, a mouse, or a toad by raising your hand, just because the other party rolled his eyes at you, or just because it is interesting. You can do whatever you want, and the reason you do something may be just because you can do it. At this point, Wright stopped and sighed faintly, and the gathering place of such a group of crazy people is called the Tower of Truth. The meaning of this thing is to facilitate these crazy people, to exchange crazy ideas and technologies, and to cultivate more crazy people. If you are a talented person, then you must hope to become a member of these privileged classes. You can do whatever you want without any constraints. But most ordinary people still want to live in a world that is not so crazy. So they were destroyed. The Holy Light Church, together with the Human Empire, the Elven Dynasty, the Orc Tribe, the Mermaids, the Dwarves, and almost all the races in the world, completely wiped them out. I see that you have been uneasy. Are you worried about the 10-year teacher-student relationship between you and Massilian? To be honest, there is no need. If he is really the remnant of the Tower of Truth, you and your father, as well as the people in the entire fiefdom, and even the chickens, ducks, geese, dogs, and cats, may all be experimental subjects, or tools to achieve a certain purpose. Talking about emotions with them is tantamount to talking about moral conscience with some street lamp pendants. Emily gritted her silver teeth and snorted coldly, "Don't look down on people. If Teacher Massilian is really a serial killer, our Lawrence family will definitely clean up the house ourselves. We will never protect, let alone condone evil. Miss. A guard outside the door ran in a panic. A black fog suddenly rose outside, surrounding the entire manor. Lord Earl is missing. Wright raised his eyebrows when he heard it. It seems that your teacher is here to give you the last lesson. Chapter 6. I'm in charge of this place. Wright led Emily out of the dungeon. As the guard said, the thick black fog had completely enveloped Lawrence Manor. They took action before night. It seems that some people are a little anxious. Emily looked at the chaos in the manor and stood up quickly. Don't panic. All guards pick up their weapons and put on armor and immediately enter combat status. The rest of the people all hide in the house. Hurry up. Earl Lawrence disappeared and Emily's appearance quickly stabilized the situation. The guards put on armor and held spears and gathered in front of her. But the thick black fog did not change. Seeing this, Emily bravely stood up and shouted at the black fog. Teacher Massilian, is that you? What's the matter? Let's talk face to face. Teacher, come out. After shouting several times in a row, there was no response in the black fog. The depressing atmosphere made the guard sweat coldly. Waiting for a minute longer would put her father in more danger. Emily had to look to Wright for help. Now, what should we do? You want him to come out? Easy. After saying that, Wright suddenly snatched the spear from the guard next to him and stabbed at Emily fiercely. The next moment, a wind blade came at Wright's throat at a tricky angle. Wright changed from stabbing to poking, and the spear was cut into 2 pieces when it collided with the wind blade. He also took the opportunity to avoid this sharp attack. Since you have already made a move, don't be a coward. Humph. The Holy See actually has someone like you who will do anything to achieve his goal. Massilian, wearing a black robe, walked out of the thick fog, holding the pale and unconscious Earl Lawrence in his hand. Father. Wright held down Emily, who was about to rush over, and said coldly, if you go over, you and your father will both die. Don't think that he just saved you because he still remembers the relationship between master and apprentice. He didn't want to destroy the fruit he carefully cultivated. Ha 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 ha, what's the difference? The wind gathered around Master Massilian, and the powerful elemental fluctuations made people's scalps numb. Now you have been sealed by the holy shackles and all the divine arts are sealed. Everyone here is a fish on the chopping board. Standing there, it's safe. Wright spread his hands. Why not try it? Massilian's arrogant expression gradually converged, and the fierce light in his eyes flickered, staring at Wright. Reason told him that this person was no longer a threat. But his heart was still beating wildly, which was the intuition trained by facing the threat of death many times. From this man, Massilian smelled the breath of extreme danger. This feeling, he only felt it from his teacher. That was the Sage of Reason, one of the 3 great sages of the Tower of Truth, who once slaughtered the gods. Crack. Massilian stepped on the thigh of Count Lawrence, and the crisp sound of broken bones, accompanied by the Count's shrill whine, echoed in the manor. "Ah! My leg! My leg!" Emily cried out in panic. "Father! Teacher, what on earth do you want to do?" Massilian sighed. "Emily, I didn't expect you to still call me teacher at this time. It's really helpless. You are so bad at magic talent, and you don't have the mentality that a truth apprentice should have. Doomed to accomplish nothing. Come here. As long as you are obedient, I can spare your father and others. But if you continue to resist me, not only the manor, but everyone around will be buried for this. Okay, I promise you." Emily was about to step forward, but was stopped by Wright again. "Wait a minute. We agree to your conditions, but you must swear in the name of the Gate of Truth." Massilian's expression froze, as if there was a ball of air stuck in his throat, unable to go up or down. Wright couldn't help but sneer. "You people are really interesting. The believers of the Vatican believe in a real goddess, but you say it is ignorant, but you are extremely pious to the illusory Gate of Truth. Stop talking nonsense. Emily, come here quickly. Don't challenge my patience. Don't fantasize. This man is just talking tough now. He can't protect himself anymore. How can he protect you?" After hearing this, Wright blocked Emily behind him. "I will really protect her today. Not only her, but I have everything covered here from top to bottom, inside and out. Don't talk about people. Even if you are a chicken, don't think about killing you. Even the Lord of Truth is useless." "I said that. Asshole. Are you worthy of mentioning the Lord of Truth? Okay. I will kill the Earl now. Let's see what you can do." "No. Don't." Massilian raised the staff in his hand, and the wind gathered at the end to turn into a spearhead, and stabbed it into the temple of Earl Lawrence. At this critical moment, a dense holy shield rose from the body of Count Lawrence, blocking the fatal blow. Then the holy shield turned into a rain of arrows, splashing towards Massilian. Massilian quickly rotated the staff, and the wind at the end of the staff turned into a round shield, blocking most of the lightsabers, but several light arrows still passed through his body, leaving burnt holes. But even so, these injuries still healed rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. Massilian flew backwards, looking at Count Lawrence in horror, and then looked at Wright. "How is it possible? You are clearly sealed by divine arts. This holy shackle scroll was drawn by my teacher himself. There is no way it can be wrong. I understand. You have already cast a divine spell on the Earl. Damn it, why didn't I notice it?" Wright laughed. "You guessed half right. The divine arts on the Earl were indeed blessed by me in advance. But I'm not sealed by your damn holy shackle." After saying that, Wright raised his hand, and the 5 fingers gathered holy light, which turned into 5 chains and shot out, tying up Earl Lawrence directly. Such a scene made Massilian stunned on the spot. When Wright handed Earl Lawrence to Emily, he did not forget to tease her. "You see, this is the most interesting thing about the members of the Tower of Truth. They are proud of their insight into the truth of the world, but once something beyond their cognition appears, they will fall into deep self-doubt. In this state, they are no different from stupid geese." Massilian looked at Light and gritted his teeth. How on earth did you do it? How about this? I'll tell you the reason, and you tell me what your purpose is in doing all this." The holy light in Light's hand kept changing, using the other party's almost morbid curiosity to persuade him step by step. "You have an apple, I have an apple, we exchange them, we still have 1 apple each. But you have a piece of knowledge, I also have a piece of knowledge, we exchange them, then we each have 2 pieces of knowledge. As a member of the Tower of Truth, do you want to give up the opportunity to pursue the truth? Or do you have no confidence in your plan that you have carefully planned for 10 years? Massilian hesitated for a moment, and finally gritted his teeth. "Okay. In the name of the Gate of Truth, I make a contract with you." Wright extinguished the holy light with his backhand. "According to the principles of the Tower of Truth, your desire for knowledge is greater than mine, so you speak first." Massilian's face was grim. He took a deep breath and spoke slowly. "The reason I did all this can be traced back to a secret plan of the Tower of Truth back then. Codename Witch. Chapter 7 Goddess. Free as well." Wright narrowed his eyes slightly. "Witch? Don't make up stories, old man. I know a lot about the Tower of Truth. I have never heard of any witch plan." Of course you don't know. This is top secret in the Tower of Truth. No one knows except the 3 great sages and the 13 members of the Parliament of Truth. Molion seemed to be very proud of his knowledge of such a secret. This is an experiment that can subvert the world. And the real scary thing about it is that it has succeeded. It's a pity that the great Tower of Truth was besieged by ignorant people like you. You should be thankful that the Tower of Truth at that time focused most of its energy on the verification of knowledge and truth. Otherwise, you would never have the possibility of winning. Wright curled his lips. If God wants to destroy it, he must first make it crazy. The end of the Tower of Truth is its own fault, and the ending has long been deemed. It's just a matter of sooner or later. But from what you mean. As he spoke, he pressed Emily's head. Is this one of the witches in your Tower of Truth? No. This is absolutely impossible. Earl Lawrence on the side was panicked. Although he was a little pedantic and cowardly, he was not stupid. From the conversation between the two, he keenly realized that his daughter might be in danger. Emily is my daughter, my biological daughter. She is from the Lawrence family. She is definitely not a witch. Lord Paladin, you must see clearly. Massilian sneered. She is indeed not a witch. Or rather, she is just a part of the witch. And the purpose of doing all this is to steal the witch's power. Well, I have finished my purpose. It's your turn. Wright raised his eyebrows, playing word games. So childish. This is called perfect avoidance of the power of the oath. It's your fault that you didn't say it clearly at the beginning. Massilian pointed the staff in his hand at Wright. Okay. Tell us your secret quickly. Why is the holy shackle ineffective on you? I never said that the holy shackle is ineffective on me. In fact, this seal is still effective so far. Wright tore off his shirt, revealing the chain mark on his body. As you can see, I really can't communicate with the goddess of holy light, and she can't bother me anymore. I have to thank you for this. Impossible, since you have lost the connection with the goddess. How can you use divine arts? Even the legendary white-robed archbishop and the pope of the divine crown died under the holy shackles. What right do you have? The divine arts system is different from the magic system. I believe you know this. Wright picked his ears and gathered the holy light at his fingertips with a smile. Magic lies in the magic configuration and the ratio of element with different attributes. The spell is just a shorthand formula for building the configuration. Magicians, arcanists, alchemists, wizards, although you have your own characteristics, you all have the same goal. But divine arts and spells are different. Take the clergy of the Holy Light Church as an example. What we store in our bodies is not light element, but holy light mixed with divine power. We also need configuration when casting divine spells, but we are only responsible for part of it. The rest is provided by the Holy Light Goddess. It's like the Holy Light Goddess provides different models of magic crystal cannons, and the clergy only need to complete the loading, aiming and ignition parts. This leads to the fact that once sealed by the holy shackles, it is useless for a clergyman to have a high rank. After all, without a cannon barrel, no matter how powerful your shells are, how accurate your aim is, or how coquettish your ignition posture is, it will not help. But I'm different. In addition to the official server of the Holy Light Goddess, I also set up a private server myself. Massilian smacked his lips. Private? Private server? Yes, I like the encapsulation idea of the divine magic system very much. When I need it, I can directly call it with a divine spell, without having to spend time and effort to restructure it every time. But I don't have a good relationship with the Holy Light Goddess. She makes things difficult for me from time to time. In a rage, I made a set of my own, and I don't have to look at her face anymore. Wright clapped his hands when he said this. Oh, I forgot to tell you. In fact, I'm not the highest level of affinity for light element, but the highest level of affinity for the law of light. In terms of the authority of the law, I'm higher than the Holy Light Goddess. So let alone the holy shackles. Even if she takes action personally, she can't seal my power. Unless you find a being with higher authority over the law of light, it is possible. Massilian roared in anger after hearing this. 1. Nonsense. You are just an ordinary person. How can you be higher than the gods in terms of law authority? Wright shrugged. It's natural. Why are you so excited? The Lord of Truth didn't react at all, proving that what I said is true. In one sentence, Massillion's face turned as pale as snow. If this is true, then do I still have a chance of winning? No. Strike first. Holy magic. Dimensional wind blade. Super level magic. Fall of light. The two men attacked almost at the same time, and two huge wind blades gathered in front of Massilion, which were enough to tear through the dimensional barrier. The holy level magic was cast instantly without chanting, and two were cast at the same time. His strength was enough to dominate the entire continent. But what he faced was Wright, who was even more terrifying. With just one finger, he could cast a super level divine spell that was one rank higher than him. 12 holy light arrays were suspended above Massillion's head, and a finger-thick light locked onto his forehead. There was a crisp sound, and the roaring holy light fell from the sky, directly enveloping him. Massilion had no choice but to cross-blast the two-dimensional slashes, tearing the space above his head, and diverting a large amount of holy light. But the remaining part still blasted off 2/3 of his body. Even after the light dissipated, his body recovered quickly again. But it was obvious that the speed was significantly slower than the last time. Now, Massilion completely believed what Wright said. The chantless instant super level divine spell was used once by the Holy Emperor Dranicide during the Holy War. That was only successfully cast with the blessing of the 3 holy artifacts, and after using it, the temporary combat capability was lost. But the young man in front of him, with the holy shackles and seals on his back, cast it with his bare hands, still calm and composed. Super level magic, with your background, how many times can you cast it? Wright grinned. It's hard to say, it depends on when the holy light goddess finds out. As a mortal enemy, you should also know. When the clergy casts a divine spell, they pay part of the consumption themselves, and the holy light goddess pays part. Generally, the ratio is 9-to-1. If there is a blessing of the goddess, plus some holy artifacts, gifts, baptisms and special circumstances, the goddess's share will increase. Some people can even reach an astonishing 50-50 split. But I don't get along with her. Before, the two of us have always been 100-0. She didn't spend any divine power, and let me pay for it all. When people are under the eaves, I can tolerate it. But after I broke up with her, I was not polite. I found a loophole on her side. It's troublesome to explain. You just need to know that now. When I cast a divine spell, the consumption is 0-10 with the goddess. So before she finds out something is wrong, finds the loophole, and tries to fix it, I use a divine spell to pay for the goddess, and I get it for free. Massilion was terrified. He couldn't tell whether Wright was bluffing, but from the beginning, everything was beyond his cognition. In desperation, his hand touched his heart. I didn't expect to use it in a place like this. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8. Don't worry about debts. Emily felt much more relieved when she saw that Wright easily suppressed Massilion. She suddenly realized that, although this man was lazy and unruly on weekdays, he was extremely trustworthy at the critical moment. Looking at your strength, you are also a big shot in the Tower of Truth. The holy light in Wright's hand gathered and turned into a spear. Is your real name Massilion? Humph. My former name was the first gift given to me by my teacher. But with the fall of the Tower of Truth, I have also sealed it. Only when I avenge my teacher and colleagues will I get my former name back. For this, I'm willing to pay any price. Massilion's eyes flashed fiercely, and the nails of his right hand suddenly grew at an accelerated rate, and then he grabbed into his chest and pulled out his heart. Such a horrible scene frightened Earl Lawrence to faint. Even the guards changed their faces, as if they were facing a great enemy. Do you think you are the only one who has arranged a backup plan in advance? Massilion held his heart above his head with both hands, and a beast-like roar came out of his throat, which sounded like some ancient language. Just by hearing it, everyone felt a slight burning sensation in their bodies. Emily had a bad premonition. What is he doing? Wright raised his eyebrows. He should be summoning the devil, which is an ancient sacrifice. He probably felt that his chances of winning were not high, so he started to call for people. Boom boom boom. The mana shrouded in black fog began to shake slightly, and then flames gushed out from all around, connecting to each other to form a weird and twisted magic circle. This huge sacrificial magic circle is one of the many backups left by Massilian. He has been working here for 10 years and has left countless trump cards. It can almost be called a home game. But facing Wright, an enemy who is difficult to consider, he opened his biggest card at the beginning. Praise to the fallen Fire Lord Ipers, you are the real ruler, the master of the fallen sin fire, the emperor of blasphemy and perdition. Your humble servant summons you here. Please bring down the supreme divine power and cleanse those who blaspheme the divine power. Praise. Praise. The fallen Fire Lord. Ipers. Pa. The heart exploded instantly, and the exploding blood mist burned instantly. In the center of the blood-red flame, a huge divine shadow slowly emerged. The high temperature of the blasphemer's fire made every breath of the person feel like swallowing a blade, as if death and annihilation were imminent. Wright frowned slightly, and snapped his fingers with one hand. Countless golden words emerged, and turned into a half-sphere, to protect all the people behind him. This is the holy mantra. The blessing of the holy speaker. Emily looked at Wright with more and more awe. This powerful magic that can only be studied after breaking through to the holy level was so easily summoned by the other party. Thinking of how she treated him these days, Emily lowered her head in shame. But she was still a little worried. After all, the other party was about to face a demon from the abyss purgatory. At this time, the upper body of the demon Ipers had already stretched out the magic circle, and the bright red flames were burning wantonly. It stretched out its huge palm and grabbed Wright in front of it. Be careful. Emily couldn't help but remind him, but Wright remained unmoved and let the other party grab him in his hand. Molion was overjoyed, but there was an indescribable sense of disobedience. The next moment, the fallen Fire Lord suddenly let out a scream, as if he was accidentally burned by charcoal and let go. Wright fell to the ground calmly, but at this moment, pieces of demon contracts appeared on his body. These contracts were stacked layer by layer, like a community bulletin board that had not been cleaned for more than half a year, covered with all kinds of small advertisements. Want my soul? Sorry, I've already sold it. And for some reason, I've sold it quite a lot. If you really want it, you'll probably have to wait in line. At this point, Wright clapped his hands and shouted, Lilith, send your fellow countrymen back home. Humph. Idiot who doesn't know the rules. Emily's shadow suddenly wrapped around her, turning her loose dress into a tight-fitting hip skirt that made people's blood boil, and her head also grew the iconic sheep horns of the succubus. Lilith licked her lips, stretched out her hand and grabbed it, and her magic turned into a long bow. Are you worthy of touching those adults' prey? Go back to purgatory and be punished. With a whoosh, the arrow broke through the air and nailed Ipers on his forehead. The latter screamed, exploded into countless sparks, and was sucked back by the magic circle. All the fallen evil fires were extinguished in an instant, leaving only Massilian with a dazed face. Sometimes it's like this. When you owe a lot of debts, your creditors worry about your life or death more than you do. Wright turned sideways and revealed Lilith, who was possessed by Emily. Let me introduce you to Miss Lilith, a special debt collector from the Purgatory Debt Collection Mutual Aid Association. Although she's a demon, she's good at all kinds of exorcism methods. If you have any cards from hell, purgatory, demons, devils, etc. in your trump card next, you can tear up the card. With her around, those methods will not have any effect. Lilith felt her new body and her face suddenly changed. Light, she's so big. Of course I know. Do you need me to tell you? Please, don't make such a fuss, as if you haven't seen the world. How many times have I told you, don't think everyone is big, just because you are small. Of course, Emily's is indeed. Enough. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the soul. Emily's soul energy is so huge. And the quality is extremely high, very pure. Wow. So delicious. So tempting. Lilith licked her lips. How to describe it? If you can get 10 such souls, it will probably be enough to pay back 1,000th of your debt. Wright's eyes widened immediately. What? That's really valuable. Suddenly, Wright turned his head to look at Massilian and smiled evilly. You were nervous just now. I I wasn't. Among all the clergy, the application scenario of the paladin is the battlefield. In order to accurately find the target in need of treatment in a chaotic and complex environment, the paladin will practice a technique called life perception. Although I'm not very good at it, your life fluctuations just now are too obvious, even greater than the fluctuations when your heart exploded. So, the so-called witch plan is aimed at the soul? Don't want to know. Wright clapped his hands and condensed a spear of light. This witch plan does seem to have some tricks. Well, it doesn't matter if you don't say it. After taking you down, there are plenty of ways to get what I want to know. Is this really okay? Massilian suddenly took out a skull. Don't move. Right, I admit that you are strong. But no matter how strong you are, can you save everyone? Don't forget, I have been planning here for a full 10 years. Do you really think I don't have a trump card to save my life? Let me tell you, now the lives of everyone in the entire Lawrence family fiefdom are in my hands. As long as I want, I can turn them into zombies at any time. I advise you not to act rashly. Wright looked at him, as if he were a fool. If you can do it, you can do it. Chapter 9 The Curse of the Witch. What did you say? I said, if you can do it, just give it a try. Such an arrogant attitude made Massilian feel very uneasy. Since the duel with the man in front of him, he has been suppressed. No matter what means or moves he uses, he will be restrained by him. I don't believe it. Can you still save everyone? Massilian's proud heart could not accept his failure, and he made a desperate move. He suddenly crushed the skull in his hand, and then a shrill cry came out, instantly spreading in all directions. This was the signal for the activation of the spell, indicating that the evil mixture he had buried in the bodies of the people in the fiefdom in advance began to take effect. It won't be long before this place will become a paradise for zombies, full of death and wailing. However, time passed little by little, and nothing special happened. The scene outside was shrouded in black fog, and could not be seen, but everyone in the manor was also at a loss, not knowing what the other party was doing. How is this possible? Why is it ineffective? Massilian's face was full of horror. It's holy water. Is it the holy water you sell? This is impossible. I secretly checked the holy water you sell, and even tasted it myself. It's all clear water without any energy. How is this possible? How did you do it? Of course the holy water is fake. Otherwise how could I hide it from you? The trump card is exposed. Can it still be called a trump card? Right side. Seeing that you are so pitiful, I'll tell you. In fact, when I was helping them pour holy water, I left a hidden magic spell on their water filling utensils. With your arrogant attitude, you probably only checked the holy water, and after finding that it was useless, you ran to catch me, right? With your IQ, you can be promoted so quickly in the Tower of Truth. You can't be a relative, right? I'll kill you. Massilian was hit one after another, and fell into madness. He raised the staff in his hand angrily, ready to release a powerful holy level spell. However, how could his speed be faster than Wright, who didn't chant? Holy spell. Holy coffin. Snap. A shadow appeared beside Massilian, and then a longboard formed by holy light surrounded him, and with a bang, a coffin was formed, trapping him inside. Up a divine spell. 12 scepters of light prison with an order. 12 scepters of light of different shapes appeared around the holy crown, and inserted into the holy coffin like a sword. Massilian wailed, and then there was no sound, leaving only a holy light coffin like a hedgehog standing there. Lilith, go read his memory. Lilith, who was possessed by Emily, shook her head repeatedly. Do you really think I'm not afraid of holy light? He's like a fluorescent stick now. I don't want it. Let him out, and I'll read his soul again. Let him out. What if this old guy has other tricks? The people in the Tower of Truth are all crazy, and we must be on guard. Then at least open a gap. Wright thought for a moment after hearing this, and then waved his hand. The longboard on the front of the holy coffin dissipated, revealing the miserable Massilian. At this moment, he was dying. His body was pierced by 12 scepters of light, and he was suppressed by the holy coffin, but he was still strong and alive. Lilith saw this, and immediately flew out of Emily, and recondensed her body. Humph. The best-selling product in hell is immortality. People in the world are really strange. They regard curses as blessings, and poisoned wine as magic medicine. What? The best-selling product in hell? It's not my autographed photo. Who would buy such a horrible thing? The little succubus flapped its wings and came to the holy coffin, stretched out its hand to grab Massillion's head, and began to read the other party's memory. However, the next moment, Wright's face changed drastically. Lilith. Retreat. Massillon, who was breathing in but not out, suddenly let out a piercing scream. His facial features gushed with high energy aura, and his life fluctuated violently. His flesh and blood turned into black mud and stuck to Lilith's arm. Just when she couldn't break free, Wright came to her side with a golden light. Clang. Wright gathered the light blade in his hand and cut off Lilith's forearm in an instant. Then he held her in his arms and threw the light blade while raising his fingers upward. The light blade nailed Massillon to the holy coffin, and the newly formed longboard sealed it again. Boom. The violent explosion sounded and swept the people around directly away, and most of the manor was razed to the ground. Fortunately, the invisible light barrier locked the shock wave within a certain range, and everyone was only slightly injured. Are you okay? Lilith curled up in Wright's arms, pouting a little aggrievedly. It hurts a little. Wright rubbed her little head. Sorry, I will make it up to you later. That's what you said. Lilith instantly became energetic, and her severed arm also gushed out a stream of black smoke and condensed into shape again. I said. But, did you read any useful information? The time is too short. But, who made me Lilith? As she spoke, Lilith flew up and kissed Wright on the cheek. A large number of intermittent information fragments poured into Wright's mind. This is actually like this? These bastards in the Tower of Truth really deserve to die. Wright seemed to be disgusted and spat viciously in the direction of the Massillon explosion. According to the information sent by Lilith, the witch plan is another vicious act that tramples on human nature. These crazy guys used forbidden alchemy to transform the souls of girls. After these girls get married, as long as they have offspring, they must be girls. During the period of nurturing the next generation, the mother soul will gradually wither and then transfer energy to her child, and at the same time, the vicious alchemical curse will also be transferred. And the moment the mother gave birth to a child, that is when the soul completely dies. They want to cultivate powerful individuals with soul power far exceeding that of mortals through such accumulation from generation to generation, and train them to become sharp weapons in their hands. If the witch plan succeeds, the whole world will become a pasture for these lunatics. They only need to press the switch and wait for hundreds of years to harvest finished witches with extremely powerful soul energy. Even if the unfortunate tragedy is reincarnated from generation to generation, it is only for their own selfish desires. Planting. Perhaps for those lunatics, this is as common as planting some fruits and vegetables, and they don't think there is anything wrong. And this is exactly why they should be completely wiped out. Unfortunately, Massillon knows very little about this plan. He only knows that there were 7 experimental subjects at the beginning, and Emily is one of them. By her generation, it is basically a mature body. Fortunately, the lunatics in the Tower of Truth are known for their rigor. In order to prevent the witches from threatening themselves after they mature, these guys set up some insurance measures. Before the final witch's feast is completed, even if the witch has a strong soul power, it cannot be used. It's really dangerous. If I had been bullied by these lunatics until now, they would have really turned the tables. After Wright understood everything, he looked at Emily and said, "It seems that I have to keep you safe." Emily was confused and was about to ask what he meant when she heard the sound of hooves in the distance. Her face changed drastically. Oh no. It must be the punishment knights of the Inquisition. You. Hurry up. Chapter 10. The 3-year period has expired. No one expected that the punishment Black Knights of the Inquisition would come so quickly. Massillon did not wait until night to launch a surprise attack, perhaps because he knew in advance that the Black Knights had arrived nearby. In Emily's opinion, the punishment Black Knights must be here to capture Wright. After all, the man in front of him was a wanted criminal of the natural disaster level who committed blasphemy. Even if he was very powerful, the Black Knights under the Inquisition were specially used to punish disqualified clergy. Who knows if they have any targeted means? However, Wright was unmoved and even took the time to cast several holy healing spells to heal the guards who had just been injured. With the demise of the evil wizard Massillon, the black fog surrounding the manor also dissipated. A group of Templar knights in black armor were rushing towards the manor. "Aren't you leaving? It will be too late if you don't leave now." Wright raised his eyebrows. "Why should I leave?" As he spoke, the Black Knights had completely surrounded the entire manor. The leader of the Black Knights came to the manor with a small team of elite soldiers and stopped their horses 10 meters in front of Wright. Everyone looked at them nervously. The punishment Black Knights were notorious. Being caught by them in the Inquisition was like being unable to live or die. In the Principality of St. Grant, where the Holy Light Church was the state religion, the Black Knights had even higher authority than the royal guards, and the royal family and nobles could be arrested at will, let alone other things. The fact that there was a demon around was not something that the punishment knights could tolerate. Everyone in the manor wanted to say a few good words for Wright. After all, he saved everyone. But under the majesty of the Black Knights, they never had the courage to speak. You know, if they blatantly helped the Vatican to arrest wanted criminals, not to mention that there would be no place for them in the Principality of St. Grant, the entire continent would probably want them. Just when everyone was tangled and helpless, the Knight Commander actually led everyone to dismount and kneel on one knee in front of Wright. "Your Highness, we are late in protecting you. Please forgive us." As for the demon Lilith, she pretended not to see it at all. "Oh, you kneeled too early. I haven't even said anything crooked. I haven't said anything about the old saying that things will change over time." Emily was stunned by the respectful Black Knight. "Wait, are you really the punishment Black Knights of the Inquisition? Why are you kneeling to him? Isn't he a calamity level wanted criminal?" The Knight Commander frowned. "Yes, it was in the past. His Highness Saint Light was expelled from the Holy See 3 years ago for certain things, and a wanted order was issued by the Inquisition. But last month, the 3-year period was up, and His Highness has restored his status, and is still an apprentice Holy Son. Because the Holy See has been busy with other things recently, the cancellation of the wanted order was a bit slow in transmission, resulting in some areas still retaining the wanted order. But we have urged people to speed up the process, and it won't be long before the information update is completed. Today we are here to respectfully invite His Highness Light to return to the Holy City." Light curled his lips. "No, I finally got out, and I haven't had enough fun yet. Besides, I'm not interested in the bullshit Holy Sun throne and the Pope's throne. I won't go to fight to the death. You have to go back. The Holy Advent ceremony, which is held every 3 years, is coming again. How can you not go back? The Holy Visitation ceremony is the goddess' coming. What does it have to do with me going back? Besides, if the goddess can't see me, maybe she will be happy and give me more blessings." Seeing that Wright was unmoved, the Knight Commander was a little panicked. "Your Highness, how about we talk alone?" Wright was originally going to refuse, but when he saw the Knight Commander's strange expression, he suddenly realized that things might be a little complicated. He nodded slightly and followed him to a deserted corner in the distance. "What happened? Your Highness, it's bad." The Knight Commander finally couldn't hold it anymore. "Something big happened in the Holy Capital. Her Highness Saint Jonah was assassinated." "What? Impossible. That crazy woman." Wright's face was full of disbelief. Saint Jonah was one of the 5 candidates for the saint, and her status was the same as himself and the other 8 people. As a candidate for the Son of God, even if she failed, she would at least be an archbishop in the future. It can be said that these 10 people are the power center of the next generation of the Holy Light Church. Among them, Saint Jonah can be said to be the hottest candidate for the saint. When she was 12 years old, she was honored by believers as a holy woman because she could summon holy light that was pure to the point of being almost impure. Jonah was strong and thoughtful, and she was also his senior sister and the first disciple of the Pope. Her assassination was second only to the death of the Pope. Wright couldn't believe it, but seeing the Knight Commander's constipated face, he couldn't help but frown. "Although I still don't believe it, you should still tell me the details." "Your Highness, since you left the Holy City 3 years ago, the entire Holy Light Church has undergone earth-shaking changes. Various new sects have begun to rise, and the old structure has been completely shattered. The entire Holy City is in chaos, and with the arrival of another holy ceremony, conflicts have escalated again and again. Just half a month ago, an ancestral vampire imprisoned in the Black Iron Prison of the Inquisition escaped from prison and attacked the Pope's palace. The great saint unfortunately died in order to protect the Pope. Bullshit. Wright interrupted the other party directly. Do you think I'm an idiot? An ancestral vampire can escape from prison? It has never happened since the establishment of the Black Iron Prison for thousands of years. This vampire didn't run away after escaping from prison, but actually went to attack the Pope's palace. Does he think he has a long life, or does he feel that there is no sense of accomplishment in just escaping from prison? Besides, does the Pope need her protection? After the Holy Visitation ceremony 3 years ago, the health of His Holiness the Pope has been deteriorating. In the past year, several highnesses have taken turns to work in the papal palace to share the pressure. Wright didn't know what to say for a moment. He really didn't expect that the Holy Light Church would be in such trouble both internally and externally, but he still didn't believe that Jonah would die. Is this crazy woman faking her death? Don't tell me she's up to something again. Your Highness, please come back with us. His Holiness the Pope said that you must be present at the Holy Visitation ceremony. Otherwise, under the current circumstances, I don't know what will happen then. Forget it. Since the old man is not in good health, I'll go back and take a look. Wright's voice gradually became a little cold. To fight for a broken chair, it turned out like this. I think these guys are really itching for trouble. The Knight Commander shuddered, but he was really happy in his heart. Then shall we set off now? Wait, go get a carriage and take the dazed noble lady over there with you. Wright wiped his lips and said, this is one of the biggest gains I have made in my 3 years of traveling. The Knight Commander suddenly realized, oh, I understand. I understand everything. Chapter 11, The Man Who Fooled the Devil. In the luxurious carriage, Wright was lying on the velvet cushions with his legs crossed, occupying most of the carriage. With the wooden table and tea sets placed on it, Emily could only curl up in the corner. Under the escort of the Punishment Black Knights, they had left the Principality of St. Grant and headed towards the most sacred holy city of the Holy Light Church. Because the Holy Day, which takes place every 3 years, is approaching, there are many pilgrims heading to the holy city from all over the continent. At least along the way, Wright and his party encountered several groups. The conspicuous outfit of the Punishment Black Knights attracted a lot of attention. But the real eye-catcher was definitely the luxurious carriage in the middle of the team. After all, the Punishment Black Knights usually escorted prisoners and prisoner carriages, and this was the first time they had served as guards. Your Highness. The Knight Commander's voice came from outside the carriage. The front is the Linsheng Watchtower. Should we go to the nearby Linter town to replenish supplies? No. Yes. Emily almost cried out. My legs are numb. And, I need to go to the bathroom. Wright sighed helplessly. Okay, then take a short break and replenish supplies by the way. The Knight Commander quickly gestured to the team, indicating that the team should turn to Linter town. The Holy Light Church has no territory. The only territory they can call is probably the Holy City, the largest city in the world. In order to prevent some unnecessary conflicts, the various national forces surrounding the Holy City have consciously marked out a part of the land as a buffer zone to the Holy City, so that pilgrims from different countries and ethnic groups can stop and rest here. Over time, these buffer zones are connected together to form a large ring area around the Holy City, known as the Linsheng District. Because the border of the Linsheng District is not a national border, there is no so-called border town fortress. Instead, there are towering watchtowers. Most pilgrims take the Sentry Tower as their first destination, where they gather to rest and get supplies. As a result, small towns around the Sentry Towers gradually formed. During the holy ceremony, held every 3 years, these sentry towns are the most lively and prosperous. At this time, the town is overcrowded, and those who arrive late can only camp outside. But the Punishment Black Knights naturally don't have to worry about this. Wherever they pass, both devout believers and opportunistic merchants kneel on the ground. The holy guards stationed in the sentry towers are also terrified, and kneel in front of the towers early to wait for inspection. Are you the captain of the guard here? Yes, sir. I'm William, at your service. The Knight Commander nodded slightly. I'm Seltz, the 4th class Knight Commander of the Inquisition Punishment Corps, and I'm carrying out a top secret mission for the Black Archbishop Saint Punishment Elson. Now, in the name of the Inquisition, we temporarily requisition your camp and all the holy guards, including you. Any problems? It is our great honor to serve the Inquisition. Very good. Now the first order is to completely clear the area within 10 meters outside the camp, and no one is allowed to approach. And form a patrol team, to patrol it 24 hours. Forget it. Wright had already jumped out of the car at this time, and waved to the two of them. The town is so big, are we going to drive everyone out? I'm not ashamed to see people, let them watch if they want. But your highness, safety issues. Can you stop those who can threaten my safety? Find a place to set up camp, and have a good rest. Yes. Emily also walked out of the carriage at this moment, rubbing her numb legs. She was spoiled. Since she was a child, she had not suffered much, and she was a weak magician. When Lord Lawrence sent her away, he specially prepared the most luxurious, sturdy, and comfortable carriage for her, but it was all enjoyed by Wright. What she found most difficult to accept was that he actually let the succubus possess her. Although it was in the name of protecting herself, it always felt strange to have an extra person in her body. After a simple rest, Emily had a rare free time, so she wandered around the camp, looking at the bustling crowd outside the camp and the pilgrims in different costumes. She couldn't help but feel very novel. But what followed was a strong sense of homesickness. Missing home? No wonder. After all, this is your first time away from home. Emily shuddered subconsciously. After so long, she was still not used to the sudden appearance of another person's voice in her mind. Lilith, can you say hello before you speak next time? Hehe, no. He's a demon. Do you expect me to be considerate? Speaking of this, I want to ask you, as a demon, why do you obey the orders of that guy Wright? Although he is more evil than a demon, he is still a paladin in essence. Lilith chuckled twice. This is an interesting matter. It was several years ago that Wright suddenly appeared in the vision of the demon gods of hell. He sold his soul to the demon gods of various hell planes in the form of soul contracts. The demon gods at that time didn't think much about it. After all, selling souls to demons is simply a daily routine in hell. Wait, he is only one person. How did he issue so many soul contracts? Lilith sighed. I don't know about that. I also asked him, and he said that he found a loophole in the contract. Although he doesn't know the principle, he did sell his soul many times. This means that if he dies, the ownership of his soul will become a mystery. Originally, this matter was not a big deal. After all, it is just one person's soul. Its value in hell is just like a few copper pesos. But later, he did something that even the demons could not tolerate, causing the value of his soul to rise all the way in hell. 3 demon kings publicly claimed ownership of his soul. 2 demon emperors built a lost paradise specifically for him, and countless demons were extremely angry and said they would torture his soul. Before he died, hell launched at least 4 wars because of the ownership of his soul, with countless casualties. Emily shuddered. What did he do? Well, including but not limited to summoning 2 demons with the power of the contract and asking them to fight, which Wright called the Hell Cricket Fight. He also broadcast Live to Hell through the magic circle and instigated some demons to open a handicap to bet on who would win and who would lose. In addition, in order to cope with the daily tasks of the Holy Light Church, summon demons to the Inquisition to make up the numbers. Summon common demons, let the other party self-explode their weaknesses, and then compile them into books and hand them over to the church, and madly brush various task rewards. And, because it was too boring, summon succubus and ask the other party to sing and dance to relieve boredom. Because he had no money to spend, he summoned a group of demons to do hard labor, and he himself acted as a foreman and embezzled the wages. He summoned a hellhound and asked it to find his other pair of socks. He summoned a purgatory fire demon and made it lie on the ground as a barbecue grill. There are some other things that are so evil that I can't even describe them. Emily's eyelids twitched. How evil must one be to make the demons unwilling to mention it? Then how did you get to him? At this moment, the Knight Commander came to Emily. Miss Emily, His Highness asked you to come over. Lilith laughed. That's right, you can ask him about the rest and see what he says. Click to collect so you don't get lost. Ask for a wave of recommendation votes. Family members. Chapter 12 Victims Association. Just in case, I'm going to leave some seals on you, as well as some countermeasures. After entering the tent, Wright asked Emily to sit down while preparing the magic circle. Don't be nervous, there are only more than 30. Emily was immediately shocked by the number, more than 30. Are you a little too cautious? How much? I originally planned to get a 3-digit number. Unfortunately, I didn't have much material on the way. Wright hooked his hand at Emily. Lilith, come out for a moment. Lilith immediately turned into a ball of purple smoke, poured out of Emily's body, and transformed in midair. Oh, are you going to compensate me? Wright nodded, took out a small bag of magic crystals of various properties, and his other hand was suspended above his pocket. Then, under Emily's shocked gaze, a large amount of light element were peeled off from the magic crystals. The translucent crystals of various colors were also dyed dark purple. Wright threw the small cloth bag to Lilith in midair, who happily took it in her hands, then sat on Wright's shoulder and ate it happily, as if it was a bag of fruit candies with different flavors. It's delicious. Wait a minute. Emily snatched a magic crystal from Lilith's hand with a look of horror on her face, and kept looking at it in front of her eyes. What did you do? What did you just do? Extract the light element, so that it becomes a processed magic crystal that demons can eat. Wright explained expressionlessly, and set up the magic circle by the way. Okay, you sit in the center of the magic circle. We are going to start. Emily excitedly grabbed Wright's collar. Do you know what you just did? Didn't I explain it to you? Is it hard to understand? Is this a problem of understanding? This is. Emily couldn't describe this feeling, but seeing Wright's impatient look, she was suddenly a little unhappy. You are such an unreasonable guy. Every time you do something weird like this, you act as if it's nothing, as if we are making a fuss. Do you want to learn the art of stripping element? Emily immediately loosened the other person's collar and carefully smoothed it for him. Finally, she knelt down obediently in the magic circle. I want to learn. Please teach me. Magic crystals are the most commonly used props for magicians to replenish magic power, but most of the naturally generated magic crystals are mixed. The so-called magic crystals of various attributes only mean that the magic power content of a single element in the magic crystal is relatively high. When elemental mages absorb magic crystals, they have to endure the damage of other element to their magic circuits. Therefore, within a certain period of time, the amount of magic crystals that magicians can use to replenish is limited. Most of the magic supplements on the market are made of magic crystal dust, so they still cannot escape this vicious circle. But if you absorb pure magic crystals, it will not harm the magician's body. In theory, it can be absorbed infinitely. If you learn this art of stripping element, let alone the practical significance, just removing impurities and artificially making pure magic crystals would be enough to make him the richest man in the continent overnight. The most important thing is that as a magician, he cannot turn a blind eye to the knowledge he is curious about. As the magic circle under him lit up, holy words turned into chains and wrapped around Emily's body. Wright held his nose while sliding his fingers in the air. Emily couldn't help but worry. Will you make mistakes if you do this? It's possible. What if I make mistakes? I will apologize to your corpse. I'm afraid I can't hear you by then. It doesn't matter. I have also signed some agreements with the god of death. I still know how to summon the dead. Emily was choked and speechless. She could only hold her cheek and watch Wright cast the spell. Look carefully. You are quite handsome. But I don't see many people with black hair and black eyes. The knight gave me black eyes, but I use them to look for light. You can say very cool words sometimes. As a result, Lilith on his shoulder sneered. Bullshit. I remember a few years ago, someone was found sneaking around the largest nun bath in the holy city. What is your light behind those layers of water vapor? Wright was unmoved. I built that bathhouse. Is there anything wrong with me going to see my own property? The paladin bathhouse is also your property. You haven't been there since the day it was built. Wright grabbed Lilith on his shoulder and threw her out. Unexpectedly, she turned in the air and sat back on his shoulder. Emily smiled awkwardly, wanting to change the topic to ease the embarrassment, and suddenly remembered what she talked about with Lilith before coming in. By the way, Mr. Wright, I heard from Lilith that you seem to have some unclear relationship with those demons in the abyss hell. There's nothing unclear. It's better to say that the cooperative relationship between us is clearly marked and well organized. Lilith grabbed Wright's hair and shook it continuously. Tell her about your most shameless part. Thank you for the invitation. That's called resourcefulness. Seeing Emily's curious look, Wright sighed. It's okay to tell you. It's not something shameful. He cleared his throat and spoke slowly. That was at the beginning of my second year of studying in the Holy City. At that time, I had already undertaken a large number of demon contracts and had many successful cooperation experiences with the Abyss. But because of the ownership of my soul, the conflicts between the forces of hell, purgatory, abyss, demon prison, etc. became increasingly serious, and they even fought against each other many times. You also know that I'm a kind-hearted person and I can't bear to see this. So I summoned all the bigwigs of various forces at once, and everyone gathered together to discuss how to resolve this matter decently. Lilith suddenly interrupted. It is called the Victims Association in history. Wright ignored her and continued to explain. Later, I gave them an idea called the hunting system. Whoever kills me first, my soul will belong to the hunter's force. Emily was shocked. Then, isn't this actively putting yourself in danger? Of course there are conditions. That is, the demons cannot do it themselves. They can only select capable generals to come to the human world to kill me. When the demons came to the human world, their strength was restricted, and each faction could only send one representative. The time started from the other party entering the human world. If they failed within 3 days, they would be considered a failure. The first time you participate in the hunt is free, but if you want to try again after failure, you will have to pay. Emily swallowed her saliva. That's also very dangerous. Wright smiled awkwardly. Fortunately, I was already very strong at that time. But it was annoying to be challenged to assassinate all the time. It just so happened that the Inquisition always troubled me at that time. I happened to have some conflicts with the black-robed Archbishop. So, I beat the black-robed Archbishop directly at the morning meeting and pointed at the goddess statue in the Holy Grace Cathedral and cursed for half an hour. In the end, I was imprisoned in the lowest level of the Black Iron prison of the Inquisition for the crime of blasphemy. If those demons want to kill me again, they can only attack the Black Iron prison frantically. In that half a month, I slept when I was full and tinkered with some random techniques. But the Inquisition was very busy. It is said that their demon hunting achievements in the past 2 weeks are more than in the past 10 years combined. I obviously helped them so much, but they didn't thank me at all. It's really sad. Emily hesitated after hearing this and didn't know what to say. In the end, she only squeezed out a few words from her throat. What happened next? Chapter 13, The Devil's World. What happened later? Later, the Inquisition couldn't hold on any longer, so they came to me for help. Wright slid the holy text with one hand and stroked his chin with the other. The Black Cardinal said a lot of good things and promised that the Inquisition would never bother me again. I felt so sorry for them, and they provided me with a lot of privileges, so I agreed with reluctance. Until now, I'm still on the blacklist of the Inquisition. Emily covered her mouth in disbelief. The Inquisition has a blacklist? Lilith laughed. Yes, but he is the only one on the list. The Inquisition basically doesn't care about anything related to him. Emily suddenly understood. No wonder the punishment Black Knights chose to ignore Lilith, the devil, one by one. What about the demon world? Lilith quickly took over the conversation. The demon world is even worse. In less than half a month, the demons lost almost an entire era as elites, causing a serious talent gap. But their sky-high rewards have already been offered, and the remaining demons are eager for this opportunity to reach the sky in one step. In desperation, the demons can only bow to this guy and beg to hold a second victims association in an attempt to find a solution. Emily's mentality has been trained, and then they got cheated again, right? Wright obviously didn't like this statement very much. He slapped his thigh and argued vigorously. What do you mean by again? I use the internet thinking to reanalyze the underlying architecture and iterate the latest strategy. Then I deeply understood the user pain points and relied on big data and cloud services to standardize the target users. Finally, I broke through the industrial barriers of private and public traffic and completed the flat matrix of the entire information architecture. Emily's clear eyes reflected a foolish light. Is this paragraph a swear word from hell? Lilith curled her lips. In short, this person came up with a thing called a talent show, named the Abyss Good Demon. Then he used the hunting qualification as the champion reward for each season, calling on those demons who wanted to participate in the hunting activities to participate. In this way, the demons can achieve monopoly on the challenge qualification in this way, and it is convenient for them to operate in secret. After all, the demons who really want to promote are not necessarily the most capable ones, but more likely to be able to fight and obedient. Those guys who are capable but ambitious, or simply the troublemakers who are not pleasing to the eye, will be rewarded with hunting orders. Then they can legitimately send the other party to the human world to seek death. In this way, the control of the demons over their respective forces has become even stronger. Lilith pointed at her nose and added helplessly, in order to ensure that the troublemakers sent here will be eliminated, and to ensure that this man will not be killed by a demon, they sent me here. Don't look at me following him, I'm not his servant, I'm a free person. Wright was full of confidence. Just tell me, after the project was implemented, did it really solve the customer's pain points? Lilith rolled her eyes at him. Yes, it was solved very thoroughly. The Debt Collectors Association held regularly now has become the most important unofficial gathering of all forces in the demon world. Those demons who did not sign the contract at the beginning had to cry and beg to sign a contract with this guy in order to join this top circle. All the demons in the demon world hate him to the bone, but they all hope that he will live a long life. Emily, if one day you fall into the abyss of hell, it will really be useful to mention this person's name. Emily was silent for a long time before she asked weakly, are you really a paladin? Wright thought about this question for a long time before he nodded with certainty. Yes. As the last holy word fell on Emily's face, Wright clapped his hands and stood up. Okay, it's done. With so many locks on, I can finally sleep well today. By the way, you have to sleep here today, too. What? Don't even think about it. Emily immediately hugged herself tightly and looked at Wright very vigilantly. If you dare to touch me, I will die with you. Wright's face was full of disdain. First of all, with your ability, even if you die 800 times, you can't hurt me at all. Secondly, among the more than 30 seals, more than 20 are used to save your life. If you can really commit suicide, I will give you my head as a ball. Finally, I'm not interested in touching you. Please understand, I'm a man with a succubus. Why should I do anything to you? Emily's eyes fell on Lilith, and her eyes changed from horror to contempt. So you really like this? Bah. Wright immediately jumped up. Slander. She slandered me. Lilith. It's all your fault. If you had a better figure, would I have to endure such criticism? Lilith rode on his neck angrily, opened her mouth and bit his head. This lady condescended to accompany you, and you picked it? It's not your fault that I became like this. Question mark? You dare to blame me? Look, I'm going to bite you to death. Just when the man and the demon were having fun, the voice of Knight Commander Seltz came from outside the door. Your Highness. What's the matter? There is an important discovery. Please move away, Your Highness. Okay. Wait for me to take off my hat. After a burst of noisy clinking sounds, Wright walked out of the tent and cast a holy light barrier with his backhand. Your Highness, are you okay? Why are there so many teeth marks on your forehead? What teeth marks? They're just the indentations of my new hat. Are you sure? It's starting to bleed. Wright cast a holy healing spell on his forehead and changed the subject. What happened? Your Highness, we caught a werewolf lurking among the crowd. Werewolf? Wright was stunned for a moment and looked up at the towering Linsheng Sentry Tower. In addition to being a landmark on the border of the Linsheng district, this thing also has a certain sacredness. At the beginning of its construction, it was blessed and protected by a high priest of at least level 5, and it would be baptized with holy water every year. For ordinary people, the Sentry Tower has a certain healing effect, like a large totem pole. How could a dark race like a werewolf appear near such a building? Take me to see. Yes, Your Highness. Please come this way. Seltz took Wright deeper into the camp and narrated the story of how they caught the werewolf. By chance, our gods accidentally scraped against a merchant boy while out replenishing supplies. As you know, the armor of the punishment Black Knights are all blessed by the high priest. The moment the armor cut through the opponent's clothes and touched the skin, the boy's skin was instantly burned. We then caught him and brought him back. At such a close distance, if you didn't touch the other person's skin, you couldn't even tell the difference. Yes, this is the most terrifying thing. We can't handle it, so we have to trouble you. Wright frowned, not afraid of the holy tower, and was able to avoid the perception of the punishment Black Knight. If this werewolf is a special case, it would be the best. But if it is not a special case, the matter will be serious. The ancestor level vampire escaped from prison. The candidate for the saint was attacked and killed, and the werewolf who was able to hide it from the Black Knight. Hiss. This is a rhythm of something big. Chapter 14 Moonlight is also light. Led by the Knight Commander, Wright came to the interior of the Holy Tower. A teenager was trapped by chains, kneeling on the ground with his head down. Is he the werewolf? Yes. Wright was about to step forward, but he didn't expect the boy to suddenly jump up and pounce on him. Although the action was very fast, the iron chain as thick as the child's arm was no joke, not to mention that there were holy words engraved on it. The moment the werewolf boy showed the power of the dark race, he was wrapped in the surging holy light and fell heavily to the ground after a wail. Looking at the werewolf with smoke all over his body, Wright narrowed his eyes. You actually want to attack and hurt people inside the tower. It seems that your resistance to holy light is not ordinary. Are you an unknown new species? Or have you received some special baptism? The werewolf boy raised his head and smiled sadly, turned his head away, and did not answer. Hey, the Lord is asking you a question. The Knight Commander raised his long whip and wanted to whip him, but Wright waved his hand to stop him. If you don't tell me, I won't understand. Little brother, you look down on me too much, don't you? As he spoke, Wright put his hands into sword-like fingers and placed them on his eyes to gather the holy light. Then he crossed his two pairs of fingers and formed a diamond shape. The diamond-shaped light circle suddenly expanded, covering the werewolf boy completely. Then, one after another, the light flowed back and forth like a scanning device, scanning the opponent's whole body. Wright, who got the result, looked very ugly. He gestured to the Knight Commander, and the two turned around and left the watchtower without saying a word. In a hidden open space in the camp, the Knight Commander looked at Wright carefully. Your Highness, is the situation very bad? He has bad intentions. There is nothing special about this werewolf boy, but he does have means to resist holy light detection. According to the test results, unless they actively use dark power or are directly touched by the blessing weapon, it is difficult to be identified by general test results. The muscles on the Knight Commander's face were twitching. The holy ceremony is about to begin. If the dark race has this means, they can quietly send a large army to blend in with the pilgrims and sneak into the holy city. How could this happen? How did they do it? Is it some kind of magic or alchemy? Wright rubbed his fingers. His eyes became deep. Do you know about the Age of Elf? Of course I know. Legend has it that before humans dominated the continent, elves were the overlords of the world. They are the pioneers of magic and also the mentors of humans. Your Highness, does this have anything to do with the elves? No, I mean, before the Age of Elf, there was a period of history called the Age of Trolls. In that era, totems and blood sacrifice witchcraft were the world. Those methods are very similar to those of the barbarian clans of the permafrost glaciers. Wright looked at the gate of the sentry tower. If my analysis is correct, then the werewolf is being cast with a mixture of blood magic and blood sacrifice spells. The Knight Commander shook his head after hearing this. Your Highness, this is impossible. Although I don't know about the blood sacrifice witchcraft of the troll era, but blood magic is the specialty of the vampire clan. Although they are both from the dark clan, they and the werewolf clan are mortal enemies. How could they? Wright waved his hand to interrupt him. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. The important thing is to report this matter to the Holy See as soon as possible. There is no way for those who have already entered the city. In the remaining time, we must strictly check the people entering the city and try our best to stop the enemy's conspiracy. Yes. I will ask someone to prepare the magic scroll for the communication. After sending the information to the holy city, Wright brought the Knight Commander to the gate of the camp. Looking at the bustling crowd of pilgrims in the town of Linter, the Knight Commander was overwhelmed. Your Highness, how many assassins of the Dark Clan are there among these people? You want to know? Wright glanced at him and said, I can expose them now. But what will happen next is chaos and desperate killing. Do you want to see a large number of civilian casualties? The punishment Black Knights are reckless when performing their missions. But the Knight Commander knew Wright's character, so he decisively shook his head. But he was still very curious. What do you have in mind? Use moonlight. All the dark tribes are basically followers of the moon. As long as they are exposed to the moonlight of the full moon, their power will surge and riot, and they will naturally be exposed at that time. The Knight Commander smiled bitterly. Your Highness, there is no full moon today, and there has been no full moon in the near future. Moonlight is also light. As long as it is light, I can do it. Wright leaned against the doorpost. The biggest problem now is how to avoid casualties among ordinary people as much as possible. Your Highness, is there any good idea? It would be best if the effect range covers everyone, but it is harmless to ordinary people, and can also have an effect on the enemy. Wright suddenly clapped his hands, but the Knight Commander obviously also thought of the answer, and knelt on his knees with a bang. Your Highness. No. Why not? No matter what, you can't preach here. Wright was a little unhappy. I've said it many times. I was giving a speech. A motivational speech. It doesn't matter what it's called. In short, you can't do that. Do you have any other better ideas now? The Knight Commander knelt down and couldn't get up. Your Highness. No. Every time you preach, the Holy See will spawn a new faction. What Mahayan, a Holy Light sect, the Light Messenger sect, and the most meaningless Urutaruman sect. Do you know how much effort and energy the Holy See has put in to manage and restrain these new sects? The revised edition of the Holy Light book has been released to the 5th edition. You can't preach anymore, please. Wright was also a little embarrassed. Okay, then let's try another way. What way? Wright pondered for a moment. I'm going to make a dark race trap. What do you think? The key is, what are you going to use to trap? Wait for me a moment. Wright turned and ran towards the carriage, and after a while he came back with a big bag. Take a look at these. The Knight Commander took the half-man high package, opened it and saw the first item. His mind began to spin. This is the 7th volume of the Code of Sins. There is also the Beast Tooth Dagger of the Evil Beast of Disaster, the Black Gold Weeping Blood Sword, the Medal of Blasphemy against the Mother Goddess, the Crystal Skull of Jeltus. The Knight Commander slammed the package shut, and his whole body began to tremble. Every item in here is on the list, and some can even be compared with the wanted criminals of the natural disaster level. If it falls into the hands of someone with ulterior motives, it can create a regional extinction event in a minute. Your Highness, what are you doing? Wright puffed out his chest. These are the little gadgets I got from hunting in the wild for 3 years. I plan to hand them over to the church when I return, and then use the reward to exchange for an acre of land. From now on, I can be a wealthy dog farmer and live a life of luxury and rent. Don't be nervous. I have sealed all these. I plan to use a few to make a nest and use one as bait to lure out these dark tribes. You are also making a nest? Of course. If you don't make a nest when fishing, you won't catch much. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, A Sinister and Vicious Conspiracy. Exhibition Hall. When the head wolf Elderfin heard the report from his subordinates, he was completely confused. What exhibition hall? It is said that it was held by the people in the luxurious carriage yesterday. It is a large number of holy objects of the dark race that the Inquisition has recently recovered. Originally, they were going to hold an exhibition in the Holy City during this Holy Advent ceremony. In order to rehearse in advance, they held something here. Oh, it's called a premiere. This is the list of exhibits they sent out. The head wolf took the list and took a look at it and almost fainted. There are more than a dozen exhibits in it, and each one is a heavyweight. Any one of them is a top level holy object among the dark race. Now, they have all become exhibits and are open to the public here. Arrogant. So arrogant. The wolf leader angrily slammed a flyer on the table. What an insult. Boss, be patient. Or thin man on the side held down the wolf leader who was about to go berserk, twisting his beard. Don't forget, one of our brothers was exposed yesterday. Since they knew that there were our people nearby, they still held an exhibition so openly. Yes. This is a naked provocation. We must not give up. But I feel it's more like a trap. The thin man narrowed his eyes slightly. What if they just want to lure us into action and then catch us all in one fell swoop? Besides, this exhibition may not be real. They may not be able to produce so many legendary holy objects. Maybe they are just made up. But the younger brother who just reported did not think so. But this time there is a Black Knight escort. When has the Black Knight been punished for escorting a carriage? Aren't they all prison carriages? So, there is still a possibility. Leader, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Are we going to turn a blind eye to it? Our werewolves could not be a lifetime of cannon fodder. There are everyone, and the thin man side. That's it. It is better to take a look. If we really have something worthy of our shot, it is not too late to plan it. Wait. In the past, the wolf is constantly looking at the list of the exhibition. The head wolf acted alone, following a group of merchants into this extremely simple exhibition hall. He came to the first booth with excitement, and then a burst of anger rushed straight to his head. The black gold weeping blood sword, which was regarded as a supreme holy object by the dark race, was placed on the booth, and a powerful protective barrier was set up outside. However, it was covered with a simple scabbard of a holy light longsword. There was also an introduction to this exhibit on the sign next to it. Exhibit, Black Gold Weeping Blood Sword Exhibit Information. The sword of the third generation of the Dark Monarch, forged from the black gold crystal of the Devil Mountain Range in the spine of the skeleton dragon Beast King. The sword body carries a fatal curse, and it will die if it sees blood. And it can absorb all the blood, flesh and spiritual energy of the enemy and feed it back to the user. The third generation of the Dark Monarch relied on this sin weapon to successfully kill his father, ascend the throne and become king, and created countless murders. Now he has been touched by the grace of the Holy Light Goddess, feels deeply guilty and regretful, and is working hard to become a holy weapon to save the world. The Holy Light Church is grateful for his sincerity and specially awarded him the primary light firefly scabbard as encouragement. The head wolf almost vomited blood. These bastards of the Holy Light Church are too shameless. They bully the weeping blood sword because it can't speak, and they are making up nonsense here. What do you mean by feeling deeply guilty, being touched by the goddess, and doing good deeds? He was also awarded the light firefly scabbard, as if it was a great honor. That is just a standard weapon for every trainee clergyman, and it's half a piece. Don't be so mean. The sword is not good either. The key is that, although he knew that the Holy Light Church was exaggerating its own achievements and deliberately belittling and fabricating, but ordinary pilgrims all believed it, and they were amazed inside at the greatness of the Holy Light and the unparalleled power of the Holy Light Goddess. Many people were also pleased that the sin weapon had come to their senses, and their eyes were wet with tears, because its hard work was recognized. Too outrageous. Too insulting. Too abominable. He suppressed his anger and walked towards the next booth, but he was almost angry to death on the spot. The Code of Sin was wrapped in a book cover, using the cover page of the Holy Light book. The medal of blasphemy against the Mother Goddess was embedded in the larger primary Holy Firefly badge. On the crystal skull of Geltus, there was a playful little horn hat of an apprentice holy child. One by one, each one may not be so exquisite, and even the workmanship is very rough, but it really makes the dark race furious. Its nature is no less than that of the trumpet troops of their own family, but the regiment flag was taken away by the enemy to make steamed buns. It highlights that it is not very offensive, but extremely insulting. Although the werewolves all know that the introduction of the exhibits is nonsense. But nonsense cannot be tolerated. The exhibits were deliberately arranged like this, but they were arranged to make people's blood boil. The pilgrims around them exclaimed and sighed from time to time, as well as praised with satisfaction, which sounded particularly harsh. The Knight Commander standing high in the exhibition hall took in the overall situation, while occasionally glancing at right beside him. When he first heard about this plan, His scalp was numb. Now seeing the effect, he felt even colder all over. He believed that any member of the Dark Clan would launch an attack after seeing this exhibition. Even if it was suicidal, they would destroy this exhibition. It was unbearable, simply unbearable. Not to mention the Dark Clan. Even ordinary nobles would be furious if they saw that something their ancestors were proud of was being treated like this. This is an open conspiracy. It is very insidious and vicious, but it is indeed an open conspiracy. The Knight Commander tried to think about it from another perspective. If the holy vessels and relics of the Holy Light Church were exhibited like this by the Dark Clan, he would want to cut the organizer of this exhibition into pieces, grind his bones and scatter his ashes. Killing him 1,000 times is not enough. Blasphemy. This is naked blasphemy. And the means of blasphemy are crude and low level, which makes it even more unforgivable. I can only say that His Highness Light, who is known as the Holy Sin, can think of such a bad method. Light slapped the railing and turned away. Okay, the war has been issued. When night comes, these guys will naturally launch an attack. Go back and prepare well. There must be a big fish behind them. Chapter 16. Make the challengers feel at home. Night is the best protective umbrella for the dark race. At this point, almost all the dark races lurking around were summoned. This is no longer a matter for the werewolf clan alone, but a major event for the entire dark world. At this moment, they all hold the belief that they must die, and they must destroy the damn exhibition hall. Use the blood of the enemy to wash away the insults they have suffered. Of course, if they can take away some of the holy objects and become their own helpers, it must be the blessing of the Dark Emperor. But no matter what, this group of dark races with different purposes have rarely united. In order to avoid casualties of civilians, the sentry tower built the exhibition hall on a hill outside the town at the beginning. This bare hill is alone and has no shelter. Although it is not as defensive as the Linsheng sentry tower camp, it is good to have a wide field of vision. Moreover, in the short 2 prayer hours from the closing of the museum in the afternoon to the arrival of night, Wright laid a large number of traps and self-developed holy light arrays around the hillside. Facing so many dark creatures spying and coveting, Wright looked confident. Knight Commander Selt stood beside him, feeling the increasingly dense dark energy in the air, his expression solemn. This situation was a small scene. When he first joined the Punishment Black Knights, he personally experienced the half-month Black Iron turmoil. There were so many high-level demons, fearlessly attacking the prison gates. Compared with those 2 weeks, there was really nothing to be nervous about. However, in order to ensure the safety of the sentry tower camp and the Linter town, the guards and most of the Black Knights stayed near the Linsheng sentry tower to form a defensive formation. In the exhibition hall, besides him and Wright, there was only the female magician who came with the car. Your Highness, how about I call 2 more Black Knights? No, there are too many people. What if the enemy is afraid and dares not attack? Wright patted the Knight Commander on the shoulder. Don't worry, you will be responsible for protecting her in a while. Leave the rest to me. Emily puffed her cheeks and was a little dissatisfied. She was a 3rd level wind magician after all. It seemed that she had no ability to protect herself. But when she saw the pairs of bright scarlet eyes at the bottom of the hill, her legs softened and she almost fell to the ground. Humans are born with the fear of darkness. If you really want to trace it back, it may go back to ancient times. The dark race, as the former natural enemy of mankind, the upper predator, and the master of the night, can be said to be an important part of human fear of the night. Even the well-trained Punishment Black Knights would feel nervous when they saw the scarlet spots all over the mountains. But it was obvious that Wright did not have that kind of little emotion. He always believed in a saying from his hometown that all fear comes from insufficient firepower. And this point was soon verified. Under the whipping and roar of the werewolves, a large number of plague rats rushed frantically towards the hillside. But when they took the first step onto the hillside, a series of holy light arrays lit up one after another, effortless wiping them out completely. The surging holy light illuminated the hill, completely vaporizing the invading enemies one by one. This is my own array, Prism Light. Compress the holy light into a beam, and then refract it continuously in the array, and finally form a dense strong light firepower network. Wright enthusiastically introduced his masterpiece to the 2. The prism light array that circled the mountain was like an indestructible barrier. No matter how many plague rats attacked, it remained motionless. When the enemy hits, the flesh and blood will be cut into countless small pieces in an instant, and then completely turned into ashes under the high temperature of the prism light. So there is no need to worry about the accumulation of enemy corpses, which will cause the array to fail. How about it? Have I considered it very carefully? The smell of burnt rotten meat floated in the air, and Emily pinched her nose with disgust. You have nothing to do on weekdays, so you think about this kind of thing. The Knight Commander was more concerned about practical issues. Your Highness, this magic circle must consume a lot of holy light. It's okay. Tonight's consumption. All will be paid for by the holy light goddess. Selt prayed to the goddess hurriedly, begging her to forgive the sin of disrespect. But he also understood that it was estimated that there were few people in the entire church who had the strength to perform a magic circle of this level. Therefore, it has no conventional strategic value. It's a pity. If it can reduce energy and increase efficiency, it can be arranged around the Black Iron Prison of the Inquisition, and there will be no need to worry about enemy attacks. But at least now, there is no need to worry about the enemy rushing up. Calculate the time. It's about time. Wright suddenly muttered, and then waved his hand, and closed all the magic circles of the first line of defense. Your Highness. What are you doing? Luring the enemy deeper. Wright spread his hands as a matter of course. Let me ask you, if you can't even pass the first level of the game, would you still want to continue challenging? As a sufficiently unethical game operator, you have to learn to give sweet dates, and then cut a wave of leaks. Let the challengers feel at home. Woo. Seeing the magic circle of the first line of defense extinguished, the Dark Tribes were overjoyed. Although the losses were heavy, the results were also gratifying. They immediately moved forward and continued to attack the mountain. Wright pointed at the dark races at the bottom of the mountain and smiled at Emily and the others. Look, how happy they are laughing. Emily swallowed her saliva, not knowing how to respond. As the Dark Tribe attacked the halfway up the mountain, a large amount of holy flames suddenly gushed out from the mountain. The entire hillside turned into a sea of fire in an instant. The poor vanguard was submerged by the white holy flames in the blink of an eye and became firewood. The originally dark sky was illuminated by the holy flames everywhere, making it as bright as day. At this time, the pilgrims in the town had already been awakened. Seeing the blazing holy flames on the mountains in the distance, they thought it was a miracle and knelt on the ground to pray. The Black Knights could only take the guards to maintain order as much as possible. The Dark Tribe army retreated urgently, looking at the towering wall of fire, not knowing what to do for a moment. At this time, a translucent and powerful lich floated out from the crowd. He raised his bone staff and chanted obscure magic spells. Then a large amount of mud gushed out, completely extinguishing the blazing holy flames. Such a magnificent scene immediately caused the dark race to cheer and roar. But the two knights standing on the top of the mountain saw it clearly. Before the mud rolled down, Wright waved his hand to close the magic circle. What are you looking at? If I don't turn it off, this little bit of mud will never be extinguished. This is a special holy flame of mine, which draws on the immortal dead flame in the necromancy spell and the soul burning flame in the hell spell. It must be a double fire extinguishing of the physical soul to be effective. Otherwise, they will ignite each other endlessly. The Knight Commander took a deep breath, and his tone was almost pleading. Your Highness, please don't talk nonsense about the fact that you referred to the necromancy spell and the hell spell. We in the Inquisition certainly can't control you, but you should leave us a way out, okay? Chapter 17. Different Blood Clan. Under Wright's careful design, every advance of the Dark Race came at a huge cost. Some dark races tried to attack from the sky or underground, but still failed to escape Wright's calculations. When they were finally about to approach the top of the mountain, suddenly a series of azure lights lit up under their feet. As a magician, Emily recognized the true identity of this last line of defense at a glance. Teleportation array? It's a teleportation array. Why do you have so many teleportation arrays? The next moment, the poor dark races were all teleported back to the foot of the mountain. And the first line of defense, the lighting array, lit up again. At that moment, many dark races collapsed on the spot. As a punishment, Black Knight, who specializes in hunting down dark races and apostates, the Knight Commander couldn't help but feel sad. Your Highness, isn't this a bit too much? The most painful thing in the world is to rework. Wright seemed to recall some unbearable past, tears welling up in his eyes. Not everyone is fickle. At least Party A thinks that the first version is better. But it is obvious that these darlings of the Dark Knight do not have the spirit of a worker. Facing the rising prismatic barrier, they lost the courage to go further. No matter how the high-ranking strong men in the team shouted, they were unmoved. Seeing this, Wright sighed. You are obviously werewolves, but you don't have wolf culture? In this case, we can only optimize all of you. After that, he held up a ball of light in his hands and continued to gather energy. When the Knight Commander saw this familiar scene, his face was suddenly filled with longing. Is that the move? Is it really that move? I didn't expect that I would be lucky enough to see that move again. Emily asked weakly. Sir Knight Commander, what is this move? Holy law, secret. Wright suddenly threw the ball of light in his hand, and it exploded above the remnants of the Dark Clan. In an instant, countless lights and shadows fell from the sky, and transformed into lights and shadows wearing holy armor. The Holy Guards are coming. It is indeed the Holy Guards. Emily looked at the lights and shadows, her brows knitted together. Isn't this an elemental creature? Did he create a light elemental elf for combat? No, only elemental elves that have reached the lord level have human form. There can't be so many light elemental lords. And the magic fluctuation is obviously not at the lord level. Wright glanced at her. This is an improved version. It borrows the Holy Spirit structure of the Holy Light Goddess, and then uses the Light Elemental Lord as a template to perform a holy descent on ordinary elemental elves. Not bad, miss. I didn't expect that your magic level is not high, but your magic appreciation level is okay. Aren't you afraid of blaspheming the Holy Spirit? Emily is a noble child of Saint Grant after all, so she naturally knows what the Holy Spirit is. It is a powerful clergyman who has made great contributions. After death, his soul is led to the god realm by the goddess to reshape his body. At the moment of crisis in the church, it can be used as a last resort to descend to the world to fight for the holy light with a demigod level combat power. It can be said to be the Holy See's trump card. But every time the Holy Spirit descends, it causes irreversible loss to the spiritual foundation of the Holy Spirit. If it does so many times, the Holy Spirit may exhaust its last strength and then completely dissipate in the world. Therefore, whether from a rational or emotional point of view, the church will never summon the Holy Spirit to save the situation, unless it is absolutely necessary. But Wright will certainly not let go of such a good structure. Since the Holy Spirit is not allowed, wouldn't it be better to catch a powerful individual who is not afraid of consumption? When descending, the contractor will provide more consumption. Wouldn't it be able to slow down the loss of the spiritual foundation to a certain extent? After constant searching, Wright finally chose elemental creatures to perfect his Holy Guard summoning divine mantra. At least for now, the effect is still very significant. Use it sparingly, and you only need to replace a new light element lord in half a year. However, the combat effectiveness of these Holy Guards is stronger than that of ordinary light element elves. Coupled with the divine suppression of the holy light on the dark race, although there are only dozens of combat units, they quickly completed the final clearance. As for a small number of fish that slipped through the net, it is no longer a concern. Your Highness's methods are still eye-opening. Knight Commander Seltz wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. Now that everything has been resolved, let's put away all these dangerous things. To be honest, it's still quite creepy to put them in those tents like this. Wright waved his hand. We are just getting started. Those just now were just cannon fodder. The real boss has just appeared. The real boss? What? Who is he? The Knight Commander realized that at some point, a silver-haired old man in a tuxedo, a tall hat, and a cane was standing in an open space not far from them. At this moment, he was looking at this side with a smile, as if he had been standing there from the beginning. It was clearly under the moonlight, but it looked so hazy. Excuse me, three of you. I'm the steward of the Brando family. You can call me Rudolph. Although the old man was polite, Seltz felt as if he was facing a great enemy. Brando, the only pure blood clan among the vampire clans that has a true ancestor level strongman. Although the clan is declining, each one is extremely powerful, not comparable to ordinary miscellaneous vampires. They even call themselves blood descendants, in order to distinguish themselves from other miscellaneous clans. The holy light on the Knight Commander surged, and he was ready to attack. Brando family, if they are behind the scenes, everything makes sense. Emily reached out and grabbed the corner of Wright's clothes, breathing a little fast. Right, I feel very uncomfortable. Huh? How come? Wright reached out and grabbed the other party's wrist and found that the magic fluctuations in her body were extremely unstable. Even the sealed witch power became active. Could it be? Wright looked at Rudolph, thinking that this old man was also a witch. No, maybe the other party had some connection with other witches, which caused the riot of Emily's witch power. A halo of holy light enveloped Emily. Wright suppressed the witch's power and patted the Knight Commander on the shoulder. Keep an eye on her. This opponent is not someone you can handle. Rudolph saw Wright coming out and couldn't help but feel a little apprehensive. I didn't mean to offend His Highness the Holy Sin, but the black gold sword of weeping blood in His Highness's hand is a treasure that my lady has been thinking about day and night. I wonder if you can bear the pain and give it up this time. The Brando family will definitely remember today's favor and offer a bargaining chip that the Holy Light Church cannot refuse. Wright shook his arms without raising his head. Why spend money to buy something that can be robbed? What's more, we are originally enemies, so it can be said that we can gain both fame and fortune. Seeing this, Rudolph slowly raised the cane in his hand, and his eyes gradually turned blood red. In that case, then I have no choice but to offend you. Wright also rarely took a fighting stance. You didn't run away, but walk towards me? Then let's do something we haven't seen for a long time. Chapter 18 I Decide Your Name. The Knight Commander protected Emily and retreated to the side. He activated the holy word shield on his armor and gave himself several more blessings. He had the honor of seeing Light take action at the holy ceremony 3 years ago. Naturally, he knew that the next battle was definitely not something he could intervene in. However, this battle might not be easy to fight. The large number of casualties of the dark race just now caused a river of blood to flow at the scene. This is simply the home court for vampires. Rudolph waved his crutches, and several blood arrows emerged from the ground and shot towards Light. Don't use this old-fashioned blood magic to embarrass yourself. Light didn't even dodge and let the blood arrows attack. But half a meter in front of him, these blood arrows ignited without fire and turned into ashes in the blink of an eye. Or should I help you? With a snap of his fingers, the holy guards under the hillside exploded one after another, turning into countless light elemental elves, and then gathered and reorganized into a group of holy crows. These holy crows look like crows, but they are transformed from light elemental spirits, and their wings are burning with holy flames. The crows are overwhelming and swept towards Rudolph. Rudolph did not dare to neglect it. He knocked the ground 3 times with his crutch in his hand, and a large amount of blood instantly formed a sacrificial witch formation. As a ball of blood disappeared out of thin air, a heavy rain suddenly fell from the sky, instantly extinguishing most of the holy crows. How is it possible? The Knight Commander who was watching the battle dropped his jaw in shock. This is a holy spell. The holy crows summoned are all possessed by the ultimate holy flame, and ordinary rain cannot extinguish it at all. Unless this rain also has divinity. Wright saw it and quickly understood the principle. So that's how it is. You use blood magic to quickly set up the spell array, and then use the spell to complete the real attack. In this way, your attack ability will be free from the constraints of blood magic. After all, blood magic is naturally inferior to the holy light spell. Now combined with the ancient spell, it is enough to make up for the gap. No, in terms of the breadth and depth of ability, it is also better than the holy light spell. After all, holy light can only be based on the light element. Many extended attribute attacks require deep attainments. Both the learning cost and the use cost are much higher. Rudolph did not answer, but waved his hands. The ground was covered with blood thorns, entangled with Wright. The remaining holy crows protected their master and destroyed all the thorns. But the blood debris that fell on it twisted and flowed, and in the blink of an eye, a new spell array was formed. A huge pillar of fire condensed out of thin air and covered Wright's head. Blood magic starts first. After it is cracked, you can quickly launch a second attack or switch to defense in an instant. It seems that you have a lot of practical experience. That means you have mastered this technique for some time. The flames in front of Wright rose, but still could not get within half a meter of him. It was as if there was an invisible barrier that isolated everything. Blood magic plus sorcery. This combination is not difficult to think of. Vampires didn't do this before. It should not be that they can't think of it, but that they can't do it. Now that you have suddenly done it, there must be some changes in you. Oh, your eyes have changed. It seems that I guessed right. Under Wright's aggressive gaze, Rudolph subconsciously took a half step back. Before the battle, he was still full of confidence. Even if he couldn't win, at least he could make the other party fight seriously. And he was sure that he could escape. But now, he couldn't even break the other party's defense. In fact, he didn't even know how the other party defended. The reason why the clergy of the Holy Light Church are difficult to deal with is because there is a small amount of divinity mixed in the Holy Light. This makes ordinary attacks very ineffective against clergy. But the fire column he just used is a witchcraft spell, which has its own divine attack. It should be able to offset the divinity of the Holy Light Goddess and break through Wright's defense. But the actual effect is that it is useless. Once people face something they cannot understand, they will have an instinctive fear, and the same is true for vampires. Aren't you coming over? Then I'll go over. Wright walked towards Rudolph. Seeing this, the old man's face changed drastically, and he quickly began to cast blood magic frantically. In an instant, flames and thunder shone together, and strong winds and frost danced together. Each attack was as strong as a holy spell, and some combined witchcraft spells were even comparable to forbidden spells. However, just like before, no attack could break through the half-meter barrier in front of Wright. It's really pitiful. Wright suddenly spoke when he came in front of Rudolph, looking at him playfully. Blood magic plus ancient witch spells do have some ideas, but that's all. Wright stretched out his hand, and holy light gathered in his palm. Before you used the witch spell, didn't you ever think about why the blood sacrifice witch spell would be eliminated by magic? Do you need to draw a magic circle before casting? Do you need sacrifices? How powerful is it? None of them. Rudolph was so scared that he retreated one after another. You don't come over. Let me tell you. The reason why witchcraft was eliminated is because of the non-standardization of element. There are so many magical elements in this world. Why can magicians only use the magic power stored in their bodies to fight? Because those elements have been calibrated and marked with the magician's soul. Although witchcraft can achieve the same effect as magic, the elements that make it up are all naturally existing and non-standard. In other words, when facing witchcraft, magicians don't need to defend or resist at all. They just need to absorb the element in it. This is the inherent defect of witchcraft, and it is destined to end with the magic era. I don't understand anything, but I'm so happy to use it. For a moment, I didn't know whether it was ridiculous or sad. Light extended his sword finger and pointed it at Rudolph's forehead, his killing intent overflowing. Impossible. Even so, you are a candidate for the Holy Son of the Holy Light Church. How can you absorb magic element of other attributes? I don't absorb them into my body. Extraction and absorption are two different things. But the surging strong light passed through his brain, leaving a fist-sized piercing wound. Light waved his hand wildly and cut Rudolph into several pieces. Win. Although Emily didn't understand the specific game process, the result was obvious. It's not that simple. High-level vampires are all immortal. Kelst was very calm. Even if they are turned into ashes, as long as their real names are still there, they will be resurrected. When dealing with vampires above the L, you can only seal them, not completely wipe them out. But if you want to seal them, you must know the other party's real name. This is also the difficult part of them. As the Knight Commander said, although Rudolph was broken into pieces, he soon turned into blood and gathered and condensed into shape again. It's not that easy to kill me. Haha, it's actually very easy. The holy light chain in Wright's hand bloomed, and he tied Rudolph up like a dumpling. Then he stepped on him with one foot and pointed a finger at the sky. Come, I will give you a holy name. Chapter 19 Familiar Scent. What if you don't know the real name of a vampire? Choose one. In Wright's opinion, the so-called real name is just the unique identification of the vampires and the only anchor point for them to survive in the world. They are also immortal, but their situation is different from the soul box of the Lich. Regarding this point, the White Cardinals of the Holy Light Church will argue about it every year and open up research topics, just to study and analyze, and finally find a way to defeat the enemy. After all, no vampire will tell his real name, just like no Lich will take the initiative to hand over his soul box. Unfortunately, so far, whether it is the Black, White, or Red Cardinals, there is no good way. But Wright has, in the Holy Light Church, some believers or clergy who are highly respected or have outstanding achievements will have the opportunity to obtain the holy name. For example, holiness, truth, and virtue. These holy names will be prayed by the Pope himself and presented to the Goddess of Holy Light. If the Goddess also recognizes the virtues and achievements of the other party, she will grant grace. The recipient will receive a holy name and the blessings that match it, and he will enjoy a high status both inside and outside the church. Of course, there are also not so nice ones, such as Wright's holy name, Holy Sin. As a person who experienced it personally, Wright was surprised to find that the holy name is not a simple title, but can be forcibly bound to his soul and is unique. This happens to solve the problem that high-level vampires are difficult to know their real names. No matter what he is called, just use this set of procedures to give the other party a holy name, and finally use the holy name to lock the other party. At that time, it is not a problem to kill or cut, destroy or seal, or even take him as a familiar. But naturally, this proposal was jointly rejected by the three major red, white, and black organizations. In fact, it is also easy to understand. After all, how can such a sacred thing as a holy name be given to a vampire? Even if it is to destroy it, it is unacceptable. What's more, if this is reported, the Goddess of Holy Light will definitely not approve it. Maybe she will be furious and bring down divine punishment. It was at that time that Wright saw the pedantry within the Holy Light Church and the bloated and inefficient process of the entire Holy Light system. In anger, Wright's belief in self-improvement surged out. He remembered the old saying in his hometown, "It is better to have it yourself than to rely on mountains and rivers." No approval? Then I will make a system myself. I will write my own reports in the future. I will approve the nodes myself. The fact is that he really made it, and it is very useful. When Wright pointed his finger to the sky, a holy light sprinkled from the sky and fell on Rudolph. It was obviously holy light, but it did not harm him, a vampire. But Rudolph himself was like facing a great enemy. He felt that his uniqueness was locked, just like the last time he handed over his real name to the eldest lady to show his loyalty. At this moment, he had no doubt about the authenticity of Wright's words about giving him a name. Light lowered his head and looked at him with a smile. "Tell me, if I give you the holy name, Gain, would it be fun?" No. No. I beg you. Whatever you want, I will agree to it." Rudolph was so scared that his soul flew out of his body, and he immediately gave in. Gain, that is the name of the first true ancestor of the blood lineage. When Rudolph thought that he would be given this name, he was so frightened that he almost fainted. Light put down his finger, and the skylight disappeared. He reached out and grabbed Rudolph and lifted him in front of him. "Then tell me, who is the eldest lady you mentioned? What do you want to do by bringing so many dark races to the holy city?" Rudolph was still in shock, and his voice was trembling. I'm loyal to Miss Scarlet of the Brando family." When the Brando family was in turmoil, she returned like lightning. She was promoted to the rank of true ancestor. She ascended to the position of head of the family. After that, she conquered the entire dark world step by step. Weird wolves, dark elves, crypt dwarves, swamp goblins, all chose to surrender. She is only one step away from becoming the world's first Darkborn queen. Wright's expression was relatively calm. "Let me guess, she plans to make a big move on the holy day, and then she can naturally become the emperor, right? That means leading the dark race to do a feat that no previous dark race emperors have ever done." Wright rolled his eyes. He didn't want to waste his time debating with such a loyal person. Then the next question is, the dark race cannot be detected by the holy light array. Is it your eldest daughter's doing? Did you learn this blood magic and blood sacrifice spell from her? Rudolph turned his head away and didn't want to answer, but under Wright's fierce gaze, he couldn't stand the pressure after all. The eldest daughter, she, miss, spare my life. I'm not. I've always been loyal to you. Rudolph's body suddenly surged with blood, and it seemed that a force in his body suddenly awakened and then began to devour his body. Wright's face changed drastically, and he immediately cast the upper god spell, the 12 Scepters of Light Prison. The Brando family. Long live. Before the 12 Scepters of Light could be inserted, Rudolph's body twisted and folded, and was finally swallowed up by a ball of blood. What a strange fragrance. I seem to have smelled it. Who is there? Wright felt that someone was peeping at him through the ball of blood, and immediately controlled the Scepter of Light to lock him. Unexpectedly, this ball of blood the size of a human head exploded into a blood mist, bypassed the scepter, and turned into a stream of blood, shooting towards Emily not far away. Not good. The Knight Commander immediately opened the Holy Light Shield. But the next moment, it was pierced by the blood. Seeing that the opponent was about to succeed, Emily suddenly exploded with several holy text halos. The sacred light made the blood flow stagnate. In just such a moment, a stream of light caught up with the blood flow and blocked Emily. The person who came was Wright with an angry face. You underestimate me too much. He spread his arms, and 16 mysterious holy light arrays took shape in an instant, layered together to form a cage, each of which was at least above the holy level. You are just a blood descendant, and you dare to be presumptuous in front of me. Today I will let you know what it means to be cut into pieces. After trapping the blood ball, Wright stretched out his hand and grabbed forward. In an instant, a large amount of blood element were stripped off bit by bit and gathered in his palm. The blood was shaking wildly, as if it was suffering from indescribable pain. Emily recognized it at a glance. The method used by Wright was the element stripping technique used to create the dark attribute magic crystal. This method was also used when fighting Rudolph's blood sacrifice spell. Soon, after the blood element were completely stripped off, only a small piece of soul crystal core the size of a thumb remained in the formation. The Knight Commander on the side subconsciously reached out his hand, but was knocked away by Wright. What are you doing? I just smelled a strange fragrance, and subconsciously, Emily also came over. I just smelled it too. And I feel it, so familiar. Wright held the soul crystal core in his hand, and after thinking it over, he pulled Emily's wrist. Come on, follow me back to the sentry tower to find Lilith. Celts, you put all these things away. Me alone. So many. Hey, your highness. Chapter 20, The Witch from a Fairy Tale. Before the cleanup plan began, Wright had Lilith quietly stay at the sentry tower in case of any special circumstances. Although Wright had some good insights into souls, Lilith, as a succubus, was more adept at manipulating them. Wright took Emily back to his tent, and Lilith then appeared. What's wrong? Why are you in such a hurry? Wright showed the soul fragment. Emily, you will absorb this soul crystal later. The enemy is likely to be another witch, and she is quite powerful. I suspect that she may have completed the so-called witch's feast and obtained the forbidden power. This also explains why she was able to advance to the true ancestor level and conquer almost all the dark ethnic forces. We must grasp her information as much as possible, otherwise it will be very troublesome to deal with her. Lilith kept swallowing her saliva around the soul crystal. This fragment is indeed as sweet and delicious as Emily's soul. I think it would be better if I swallow her. Wright grabbed Lilith. You can't. You have to let her swallow it. If Emily has problems, you can still save her. But if you have problems, it will be troublesome for us to save you. Only the strongest pilots are qualified to be substitutes in the military parade. Understand? Woo. Okay. Emily looked at the soul fragment floating in Wright's hand and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. I'm scared. Seeing this, Wright took a deep breath and put a hand on her shoulder. Emily, let me make it clear now. The matter of witches is not a joke. In order to solve this matter, many people may die, including myself. You are afraid, I understand. If you choose not to do this, I will not force you. But there is one thing, I, Wright, will never turn my back to someone who chooses to retreat. Everything has a price. You don't have this awareness, you are not mentally prepared, and you don't want to pay. It's okay. But our cooperative relationship ends here. After returning to the holy city, I will find a way to completely strip the witch power in your body, so that you can turn back into an ordinary noble lady, and then send someone to send you back to your father. This is not a spring outing, but a matter of life and death. An indecisive half-hearted person will not only kill himself, but also implicate others. Perhaps from your own point of view, you are innocent. You have done nothing wrong, but you have fallen into such a situation. I'm not a life mentor, and I'm not interested in enlightening you. In short, this is the situation. After that, Wright sent the soul crystal to Emily, so, choose. Should I face the coming storm and waves, and be the helmsman who controls my own lonely boat of life? Or should I stay out of it, and be a noble lady again? From now on, the years are peaceful, and I will live a plain life. Emily bowed her head and said nothing. Facing the fork in her life, her heart was extremely entangled. Time passed by minute, and just as Wright sighed slightly, and was about to withdraw his hand, Emily suddenly looked up with an extremely firm look in her eyes. I don't want to be a helmsman. She snatched the soul crystal core, and stuffed it into her mouth. While chewing hard, she firmly declared her choice. I want to be the captain. Report to the captain. Wright saluted her. This thing is not for oral administration, but for external application. Emily, who was hurt by the toothache, angrily scolded with tears in her eyes. Why didn't you say it earlier? Obviously, Wright was just teasing her. The soul crystal core quickly merged into Emily's body, and she rolled her eyes and fainted. Seeing this, Lilith quickly turned into purple smoke, and wrapped her up. It's okay, her soul is stable. It must have received too much information at once, and was a little overloaded. Let her digest it herself, and she will be fine. That's good. Lilith put Emily on the simple camp bed, and looked at Wright somewhat unhappily. You really like big ones. What are you crazy about? Then why do you want to keep her here? She chose to stay. But I'm relieved. Wright hugged his shoulders, and looked at Emily on the bed. She is a brave girl. Besides, if I don't have one or two witches on my side to solve the witch incident, won't I be passive the whole time? It seems that you are very concerned about this incident. Are witches really that difficult to deal with? Wright pondered for a moment. Do you know the saying that quantitative change leads to qualitative change? Judging from the information we have at present, witch technology is enough to be called a forbidden means that can subvert the world. If left unchecked, it will definitely cause unknown huge disasters. This world is actually very fragile. I don't want to have no place to live for no reason. Lilith put her arms around Wright's neck and lifted his chin, her tone and actions full of temptation. How could that be? Do you know how many planes in the demon world are waiting for you to reign? As long as you go, you will surely be able to command 100 people to respond. Becoming a demon king is just around the corner. If it doesn't work, I will take you to the land of succubus, and I will ensure that you are happy every day and forget all your troubles. Wright looked calm, looked down, and smiled contemptuously. Heh, what are you laughing at? You just stared at me and laughed very rudely. How can I stare and laugh at something that doesn't exist? You just like big ones. I'll fight you. While they were arguing, Emily exuded a powerful wave of magic power. Wright hurried forward with a strange expression. She actually got promoted. She jumped directly from the 3rd level to the 5th level, the 9th stage. She is only one step away from the holy level. In just a short while, Emily actually surpassed the Knight Commander Celts. However, the barrier of the holy level cannot be broken through by powerful magic power, let alone unconsciousness. As the wave of magic power subsided, Emily slowly opened her eyes. Are you awake? Wright looked at her with a smile. Congratulations, it's a boy. What? Emily quickly turned over and stood up, but felt dizzy again, and sat back on the bed. It's just a joke, don't get excited. I saw it, I saw that woman. Wright immediately put away his smile. Tell me in detail. She has skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. Wait. Why does this part sound a little familiar to you? Wright had a light bulb go off and took out the fairy tale collection he carried with him and turned to the chapter Snow White. "You're not lying to me with fairy tales, are you? Snow White is actually a vampire, right?" "Hiss, it makes sense." Emily waved her hands repeatedly. "She really looks like this. She is the Blood Witch. I got some of her memories. There are 7 witches like us. And she is the only original witch left in the world, and she has a lot of information about witches. Her goal is to collect all the witches' power and then start the Witch Night to gain enough power to control the whole world." Wright used a holy healing spell to help Emily calm down. "Don't panic. Talk slowly." Chapter 21 Humanoid Witch Trap. Although Emily successfully devoured the soul fragments of the Blood Witch, unfortunately the memory she got was very limited. But fortunately, the part about the conspiracy of the Holy Advent ceremony was still clear. The Blood Witch is the last original witch. When she was born, the Tower of Truth was already in turmoil under the siege of many forces. Due to the lack of manpower and energy, the Blood Witch successfully escaped by accident. Not only did she kill all the caretakers in the alchemy workshop, but she also used her unique ability to obtain a lot of information about the witch plan. In order to escape the fate of a witch, she used blood magic to subdue a vampire, and then became a blood race and gained immortality. "Wait." Wright stopped Emily. "What do you mean? The Blood Witch was not a blood race at first." "Yes, all the original witches are human. Because the soul quality, growth cycle and reproduction speed of humans are the most suitable among all ethnic groups." Wright nodded slightly. "The soul quality of elves is higher, but the reproduction ability is low, and the growth cycle is too long. Orcs reproduce quickly and have a short growth cycle, but their souls are too low quality. After comparing them, humans are indeed the most cost effective." Lilith came over and said, "Actually, I'm quite curious. This witch's plan obviously has loopholes. For example, what if a witch dies alone without the next generation? Or, what if she likes women? Or gives birth to a son?" Emily's pretty face turned red, and after hesitating for a long time, she chose to speak out. "Your concerns were taken into consideration by the unscrupulous Tower of Truth during the development of the Witch Project. The Witch's Curse is a mixture of alchemy, arcane secret spells, witchcraft and other techniques. For example, it ensures that the offspring must be female, and the mother's soul and life will be taken away by the next generation. These are the most basic functions. Under the control of the curse, when the witch grows to a certain age, she will have a strong interest in the opposite sex. And as she grows older, this interest will gradually become crazy. During this period, the witch will also emit a body odor called witch's fragrance, which is extremely attractive to the opposite sex." Wright clapped his hands. "No wonder. I thought my nose was broken." "Then what your teacher Massilian said, that you are about to mature, is not referring to this matter." Emily blushed, but finally nodded with gritted teeth. Wright took 2 steps back, and Emily immediately turned from shame to anger. "Are you serious about backing off? Boys should protect themselves when they go out." Emily shouted angrily, "Don't be so sentimental. The witch's curse will only prompt the witch to look for high quality men with extremely high soul quality. And you are." Emily suddenly remembered that the soul of the man in front of her was a top quality soul that even the demons in the demon world were crazy about. In this case, he was just like a walking witch trap. Wright also realized this and took 2 steps back. "I originally thought that you were spying on my beautiful skin, but I didn't expect you to covet my interesting soul." Emily gritted her teeth and said, "Go to hell. Who would covet you? The curse is just an auxiliary urge. It makes the witch desire to fall in love, form a family, and give birth to children. The early strength is very small, even less than that of parents who urge marriage. The real decision-making power is still in the hands of the witch herself. Only when she is about to lose her reproductive ability will the compulsory mechanism be triggered, and she will fall into madness." Suddenly, Wright seemed to remember something and asked tentatively, Do the strange fragrances of different witches smell the same?" "I don't know." Emily glared at him unhappily. "There is no information on this part. But, since it's called strange fragrance, they should be different." "Hey, why did your face suddenly become so ugly?" "Ah, it's okay. Go on." "That's all." Emily spread her hands. "That's all the useful information. After all, that soul fragment is very small. Where is the key? What is the witch's feast? What is the witch's night? How did you get the power to destroy the world? And what about the other 5 witches? Are there any clues? Emily shook her head helplessly. Unfortunately, there is none of these in this soul crystal core. I haven't even found the conditions for my own feast. But your strength has improved a lot. Really? Wow. How did I break through to the 5th level? Emily jumped off the bed in surprise, feeling the powerful magic fluctuations in her body, her face full of joy. Wright shook his head. Don't be happy so early. The source of a magician's power is not magic, but knowledge and ability. Although you have become a 5th level magician, you still have a long way to go. I know. Emily made a face at Wright, and then suddenly became obedient, as if she realized something. Well, Mr. Wright, you promised to teach me the elemental absorption technique before. You nobles are all the same. You use people forward, and don't use people backward. Wright looked down on Emily. If you want to learn, of course I can teach you. But whether you can learn it or not, whether you can do it or not, that's your own problem. Great. Let's talk about the principle first. Just as Wright was about to start speaking, the voice of the Knight Commander came from outside the tent. Your Highness, have you packed up all your criminal weapons? Huh. They're packed up. Wright looked outside the tent. After a night of fierce fighting and negotiations, it was already dawn. Celts, you organize everything immediately, and let's return to the holy city as soon as possible. Yes, my lord. Wright stretched and said, let's talk about the theoretical part in the car. When we are done, we'll probably be almost at the holy city. You pack up. Lilith, come with me. The man and the demon left the tent, and Lilith laughed out loud. What? Are you panicking? Why should I panic? Humph, you must be doubting whether your old lover Jonah is one of the witches, right? Bullshit. My relationship with her is pure. Lilith rolled her eyes. There are only pure relationships between men and women. How can there be pure ones? In short, she and I are innocent. Wright waved his hands. Besides, she has a younger brother. How could she be a witch? But I'm really concerned about her life and death. So, you go to the holy city before us, and help me find out. Lilith immediately made an emergency retreat. Are you crazy? I'm a demon, and naturally no one dares to say anything if I'm with you. Going to the holy city alone, do you think I'm not dying fast enough? Wright smiled and raised his finger. What are you afraid of? I have analyzed the methods of the Blood Witch and made improvements. As long as I coat you with a layer of protective outer film, I guarantee that you are both sacred and bright, and you can freely enter and exit the important places of the Holy Light Church. Lilith was a little speechless. Why do I feel that you are more excited than me about this kind of blasphemy against the Holy Light Goddess? Thank you all for your recommendation tickets, monthly tickets and rewards. Thank you everyone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22. Am I being fleeced? This is the active theory of magic element. Do you understand? In the carriage, Emily rubbed her swollen head and shook her head helplessly. The magic theories Wright talked about were completely different from what she had learned since she was a child. It was no exaggeration to describe them as heretical. Wright couldn't help but sigh when he saw this. To put it more simply, magic element are also divided into active and inert. You can understand this, right? There are fire element around us, but they don't spontaneously combust without fire. There are water element, but our clothes don't get wet. This is because magic element in their natural state are inert. This includes the magic power in a magician's body, which is also inert. Otherwise, wouldn't a fire magician have flames burning all the time? When we release magic, we empower it with mental power to transform it from inert to active, and then stimulate the magic effect. Why is the power of the same elementary magic fireball different between a saint level magician and an apprentice magician? That's because saint level magicians have stronger mental power, so the element that make up the magic must be more active. Do you understand? Emily nodded, then shook her head. Wright sighed. You can figure it out slowly. This is not something that can be done overnight. When you master the activity of magic element, you can even manipulate non-calibrated magic element in the outside world. Freely manipulating magic element outside the body, isn't that a realm that only legendary wizards can achieve? Different paths to the same destination. Emily collapsed in the car in despair, her eyes losing their brilliance. If you want to become stronger, there is no shortcut. But you are a paladin, why can you also absorb blood element? Wright spread his hands. Then we have to mention the elemental mimicry theory, elemental replacement theory, and elemental upgrade theory. Okay, I was wrong. Pretend I didn't ask. Emily blocked her ears, feeling that if she continued to listen, her head would explode. That's because you didn't lay a good foundation. Wright shook his head and reached out to lift the curtain of the carriage. Kelster, are we there yet? Your Highness, the holy city is ahead. Really? Wright stuck his head out of the window. This is the wrong way, isn't it? Isn't this going to the north gate? Yes, to the north gate. Nonsense. Why don't you go through the main gate in the east? Because the main gate. Ah. Look at my brain. Go through the main gate. Must go through the main gate. The Knight Commander gave an order, and the convoy immediately turned around and headed towards the main gate in the east. He got off the horse and trotted to the side of the carriage. Your Highness, are you finally calmed down? What did you calm down? Ah, you are going through the main gate. Doesn't that mean the seal will be lifted? Wright had a lot of question marks on his head. Seal? What seal? Is there a seal on the main gate on the east side of the holy city? Yes. Nonsense. It's nonsense. Wright slapped the window of the carriage angrily. The holy visitation ceremony is about to begin, and believers from all over the world will come to the holy city to worship. There is a seal on the main east gate. What are you thinking? What are those good for nothings in the temple thinking? What are you doing in the Inquisition? Where is the majesty of the holy see? Where is the majesty of the holy light? Yes, you are right. When was this seal set? And who did it? The Knight Commander smiled awkwardly. 3 years ago, when you left, it was set. The air suddenly became quiet, with only the wheels turning continuously. Wright felt his expression stiffen. Is that so? Why don't I remember it? You forgot that, when you left the holy city from the main east gate 3 years ago, you nailed your holy weapon in front of the gate in a rage. After you left, the entire gate was wrapped by the power of the holy weapon. No one could get in or out. In the end, there was really no other way, so the temple gave an order to expand the north gate as the main entrance and exit. Wright's embarrassed mouth twitched. Oh, my sword, right. It seems that there is such a thing. But I didn't set a seal. Can't you find someone to pull it out? Opening the north gate is a waste of money and labor. Knight Commander Kelst laughed dryly. If it can be pulled out, wouldn't it have been pulled out long ago? Wright thought about it, and it was right. Apart from himself, the only people in the entire holy city who could pull it out were his 2 teachers. They probably wished that those guys in the temple would be defeated, and they would definitely not take the initiative to pull it out. But keeping it for 3 years is equivalent to slapping him in the face for 3 years. Despite their rage, the 2 old men are still as narrow-minded as ever. The Knight Commander scratched his head a little embarrassedly. To be honest, I have been to the main east gate to draw the sword. Why did you go there to make trouble? You don't know. It has become a tourist attraction now. What? Almost all clergy will try to draw the sword. Newly joined apprentice paladins will also regard the act of drawing the sword as a sacred ritual, because those with weak wills will be rejected by the holy weapon. Going to the east main gate to draw the sword has become a part of the selection process. Wright rubbed his temple. It's so weird. I can't tell what's weird, but it's definitely not right. The Knight Commander sighed. After His Highness took back the holy weapon, although the east gate can be reopened, but the military expenses of the paladins have lost an important income. Wait a minute, what does this have to do with the military expenses of the paladins? 100 silver darrens for each draw. Wright felt a ringing in his ears. 100 silver, isn't this robbery? All this money has been used to pay for the military expenses of the paladins? No, the military expenses of the paladins are split 70% with the Pope's private cabinet. I wonder why the 2 teachers are unwilling to pull out the holy artifact. I thought they were speaking up for me, but I overestimated them. As they were talking, the convoy had arrived outside the main east gate. Wright looked out and saw a long line that stretched from the gate to the hill in the distance. It's the pilgrimage period now, so there are more people. Usually, there are about half as many people. Wright smacked his lips. This person is 100 silver dragons. It only takes a few seconds for one person to try to pull out the holy artifact. Judging from this situation, there are thousands of people every day. In a day, it would be hundreds of thousands of silver dragons. TSK, why don't we forget it? After the Holy Advent ceremony is over, we will pull out the holy artifact. It's a waste not to make this money. Wright stroked his chin, and the beads on the abacus in his mind clattered. But we have to get the income back. Damn it, these people are fleecing me, and they have been fleecing me for 3 years. How can we tolerate this? Just as Wright was thinking about how to ask the two old men for the money, there was a noise outside. Kelst, what's going on outside? Your Highness, it's bad. The paladin who is in charge of the holy artifact stall is arguing with the Protestant people. It looks like they are going to fight. Wright slapped his thigh. How can this be? In such a sacred place like Zengdan Gate, in front of so many devout believers, they are fighting. I must fight for justice. Emily, who had been silent in the carriage, sneered. Haha, are you afraid that it will delay your making money? Chapter 23. Let's make a bet. There are many factions within the Holy Light Church, but no matter what faction it is, they have to give face to the punishment Black Knights of the Inquisition. There is no way. They are authorized by divine power, and they will kill first and report later. Although the two groups at the East Gate were already on the verge of a fight, the Knight Commander led the Black Knight Guards to stand there, and the two groups immediately stopped fighting. Wright took Emily out of the carriage and looked at the two conflicting groups. He was very familiar with one of the groups, which was his hometown, the Holy Knights. To this day, his official identity in the Holy Light Church is still a Holy Knight. The other group is relatively unfamiliar. These people are wearing white monk robes, but the style is different from the white clothes sequence. Moreover, on the white robes of these people, they dare to use gold patterns. At least they look quite noble. According to the Knight Commander, this is a newly emerged faction Holy Light Protestant Church. Wright took a look and found that the Holy Light fluctuations on these people were not low. The blonde girl in the lead was as strong as the Punishment Knight Captain, at least a 5th level mid-level strength. That was why the two groups didn't fight just now. Otherwise, the paladins would have suffered more. Wright stood there without saying a word, and the two groups were also grumbling in their hearts. The Punishment Black Knight Guards have always been responsible for escorting serious criminals, but this man was sitting in a luxurious carriage and accompanied by a beautiful woman with a beautiful figure, and everyone from the Knight Captain to the Punishment Black Knight was respectful to him. This feeling was not a snobbish comparison, but came from a respect and admiration. Such a distorted positioning made the two groups dare not act rashly. Under the Holy City, in front of the East Main Gate, gathering to fight. How can this be? It's simply shameful. It brings shame to the Holy Light. Wright's face was furious, and his voice was like a bell, instantly suppressing everyone in terms of momentum. Several timid people in the two groups immediately turned pale, their knees weakened, and subconsciously wanted to kneel down and confess their crimes. After calming down the situation, Wright put his hands behind his back and shouted loudly, "Who is the person in charge? Come here." The blonde girl from the Protestant church walked over with her head held high, looking very arrogant. The group of paladins pushed and shoved, and finally a slightly older guy walked over with a shy look. Wright was furious when he saw the paladin's shy look. "Stand at attention. Stand still. What are you doing so careless?" He deliberately moved closer and pointed at his face. "Do you know me?" The paladin shook his head awkwardly. "How long have you joined the Paladin Order?" 2.5 years. Wright glanced at the other paladins and estimated that these people had only been in the army for 1 or 2 years. No wonder they didn't recognize him. "What's wrong with you two groups? You are fighting among yourselves in front of so many believers. Do you want to go to the Red Church to confess your crimes?" The blonde girl was quite unconvinced. "Who are you? What qualifications do you have to ask us for punishment?" In fact, the blonde girl's doubts were well founded. After all, Wright's attire and temperament make him look more like a paladin. The Holy Light Church's temple is divided into the Red Church, the White Church and the Black Church. The Red Cardinals are responsible for the administration of the church's government affairs, while the Black Cardinals are mainly responsible for the church's legal affairs. The White Cardinals are the clergy that believers come into contact with the most. They are responsible for daily religious behavior such as preaching, baptism, presiding over priests, and studying scriptures. The paladins belong to the Legion of the Goddess of Holy Light. Although they belong to the church, they are not in the church system. If Wright is just a high-level paladin, he is indeed not qualified to hold the Red Church accountable. If he belongs to the Punishment Black Knight sequence, then these people's fights are not serious enough for the Black Church to intervene. Unfortunately, Wright is one of the apprentice saints, and to a certain extent, he can act on behalf of the Pope's will. Facing the girl's questioning, Wright has not spoken yet, and the Knight Commander is the first to be furious. "Arsehole, how dare you? Who gave you the courage to contradict His Highness? You Protestants are getting more and more unruly. Do you want to go to the Inquisition with me to have a talk?" When everyone heard the Knight Commander call Light His Highness, their expressions suddenly became interesting. After all, only the apprentice sons of God could be called His Highness by the Punishment Black Knights. But among the 5 apprentice sons of God, 2 have been staying in the Holy City, 2 have gone out for training, and have not returned yet, and 1 is missing. The clergy and paladins present were also unclear about which apprentice son of God this one was. Even if you are the apprentice son of God, you should be reasonable. We didn't fight, so how can we call it a fight? Wright snorted coldly. Why, you are quite regretful that we didn't fight? Let me tell you. If we had fought, it would not be as easy as handing over to the Red Temple. As clergy, you openly gathered to make trouble and fight during the preparation of the Holy Advent ceremony. It caused extremely bad influence. All of you must go to the Inquisition and eat jail food. As for the 2 of you who led the group, adding crime to crime, even the Pope and the Temple Council can't save you. This is what I said. The blonde girl seemed to be unconvinced, but when she saw that the Punishment Black Knights on the side had begun to be on guard and ready to attack at any time, she immediately shrank her head and dared not talk back. At the same time, she was also extremely shocked. These Punishment Black Knights were so obedient and respectful to him, and even ignored his verbal offenses against the Pope and the Temple. She had also seen other apprentice saints and apprentice saints, and in terms of power and temperament, they were nothing compared to the person in front of her. Wright looked at the blonde girl. What's your name? Your Highness, my name is Flando Portman. You talk a lot. Then tell me why the conflict is going on. Flando glanced at the paladin and snorted coldly. Humph. We are not having a conflict. We want to expel these greedy paladins. They occupy the miracles bestowed by the great God of Light, but they are lining their pockets and seeking profit, which is simply a blasphemy against the Holy Light. We are stopping them from continuing to accumulate sins, and to better protect the miracles. Miracle? What miracle? Flando pointed to the holy sword that was half immersed in the ground in front of the door. It's a miracle. It's the gift of the God of Light. Wright had a strange expression, because the girl praised the Holy Light, but the name of the god was not the Goddess of Holy Light. He looked at the Knight Commander beside him in surprise, and the latter quickly stepped forward and explained in a low voice. Their Protestant sect has only emerged in the past 2 or 3 years. Although they also believe in the Holy Light, they have always used the God of Light as their taboo. What the hell? Such a heretical sect is allowed by your Inquisition? Are all the members of the Temple Council dead? The Knight Commander was embarrassed. Of course it is not allowed, but they actually summoned the gift of God in public, and more than once. The Holy See had no choice but to recognize their identities with a pinch of the nose. Just as the 2 were whispering privately, the captain of the Paladin squad jumped up in anger. Bullshit. This sword. This is the holy weapon of our boss's eldest brother. 3 years ago, the boss's eldest brother went to pursue the ultimate way of holy light. He temporarily stored the holy sword here. At that time, your broken sect didn't even know where to play in the mud. Flando sneered. Are you kidding me? Such power is only possessed by the great God of Light. A mere exiled paladin, a criminal who committed blasphemy. The turbid light in the eyes of the world, the holy sin that does not want to be mentioned. His holy weapon can seal the door for more than 3 years with one sword? Or should I ask, can someone like him have a holy weapon? Do you think holy weapons are cabbages? Even if you want to make up a story, can you please make one that is more credible? At this time, the face of Knight Commander Seltz had changed from red with anger to pale with fear. He looked at Flando, as if he was looking at a talking corpse. Even Emily couldn't bear to cover her eyes. Right, as the person involved, smiled at the beautiful blonde girl. Interesting, Flando, right? Are you interested in making a bet with me? Chapter 24 Its name. Make a bet? Flando looked at Wright in surprise. Your Highness, what do you want to bet on? Wright pointed to the holy sword in the distance. Since you said that this sword is a miracle given by your god of light, and you praise the god of light so much, then I guess a mortal like me can't pull out this holy sword, right? But I don't believe in evil, and I still want to give it a try. But it's stupid and boring to just pull it out. It's better to bet on something to add some excitement to this dull life. Flando was stunned for a moment, and then she hesitated. As a core member of the Protestant Church, she naturally knew that this sword was not a miracle of the God of Light. The reason for doing this is, firstly, to make a big fuss, take advantage of the Holy Advent ceremony, to promote the Protestant Church, and develop more believers. Secondly, they also saw the terrifying income of this holy site, and wanted to get a share of it. After all, because of the difference in doctrine and taboos, the Protestant Church can be said to be hated by everyone in the Holy City. Being able to recognize their identities is already the limit of the Church's tolerance, so it is naturally impossible to allocate any funds or subsidies to them. Without income, there is naturally no ability to grow, which is what the faction leaders do not want to see. Today's fast is simply a scam. Even if they cannot take advantage of this side, they can force the Church to loosen up on funding subsidies. But unexpectedly, they ran into the returning apprentice son. What? Weren't you so confident just now? Now that the victory is at your fingertips, why are you hesitating? Wright deliberately spoke loudly. Could it be that what you just said was nonsense? Or do you have no confidence in your God of Light? As soon as these words came out, not to mention the ordinary believers who were watching, even the hearts of the group of people in the Protestant faction could not help but waver. Hearing the people behind her whispering, Flando panicked. If she avoided showing weakness and refused to bet now, most of the believers behind her who had been brought in with great difficulty would probably leave. Although they are not the backbone elites, their departure will inevitably trigger a chain reaction. The Protestant Church has worked hard to get to where it is now, and finally accumulated some wealth. It cannot give up all the previous efforts. Okay, if your highness wants to play, I will play with your highness. Flando's eyes turned, and she thought of a countermeasure, but miracles are not to be trifled with. If your highness fails to pull out the miracle holy sword, he must be punished most severely. Oh, what punishment? If your highness fails, please apply to the Holy See to give up your status as a holy son. Then join our Protestant Church and serve the great God of Light sincerely. How outrageous. The Knight Commander was immediately furious. The sacred status of the apprentice Holy Son is related to the continuation and prosperity of the Holy See. How can it be used as a bet? Flando was complacent. This was exactly the effect she wanted. Make the bet bigger, so big that the other party dare not accept it. So big that the bet can't go on. In this way, the bet can be left unresolved. Okay, sure. Unexpectedly, Wright agreed without even thinking. I can raise your bet. If I can't pull out this sword, not only will I resign my position as a novice saint, I will also help the Protestant Church get this vacant vacancy for a novice saint. The Knight Commander immediately became anxious. Your Highness. No. How can I explain this to His Holiness the Pope? The Temple Council will not agree. What are you afraid of? The Temple Council is eager to remove my position as a novice saint. As for the teacher, I will explain it myself. Besides, do you doubt that I can't pull it out? The Knight Commander thought so, and stopped talking immediately. He didn't object, but Flando was dumbfounded. What's the matter? Why did he agree? What should I do now? He can't really pull it out, right? I finished talking about my bet. What about you? Miss Flando, do you have an equal bet? Flando felt relieved after hearing this. She understood that the other party had kicked the ball to her. As long as she said that she didn't have a corresponding bet, the other party would definitely take advantage of the situation and cancel the bet. Ha. Man. It was just another trick to save face. I'm of humble status, so I naturally can't make a bet that is comparable to that of His Highness. However, unexpectedly again, Wright inspected her like he was looking at goods, and finally nodded with satisfaction. Since you can't make a bet, then use yourself to pay off the debt. It just so happens that I brought back a spoiled young lady, and my family really needs a few maids to serve tea and water, and fold quilts, and warm the bed. What? How can this be possible? Flando blushed. She didn't expect the other party to humiliate her nakedly in public. Wright sneered. Why, when it comes to yourself, you are timid? You are not even willing to sacrifice yourself. It seems that your loyalty to God is quite average. Or are you doubting the power of the God you believe in? Hearing what Wright said, Flando became more confident. Yes. With the blessing of the great God of light, what am I afraid of? The God of light may not be able to bless me to pull out the holy sword, but isn't it very simple to prevent the person in front of me from pulling out the holy sword? As long as I pray sincerely, the God of light will definitely respond to me. And think about it the other way around. The price offered by the other party is really too tempting. If I can really get a place for the apprentice saint for the Protestant church, it is equivalent to locking in a high-level seat in the Holy See in advance. Then the Protestant church is equivalent to ascending to heaven in one step. Becoming a mainstream faction is just around the corner. Even for this purpose, the God of light will definitely help me. Okay, I bet with you. Well, let's each make a vow to God. No problem. After the two sides confirmed the content of the bet and their respective bets again, they began to make a vow to God. And this is Wright's real purpose. After going around in such a big circle, he just wanted to see where this so-called God of light came from. While making the oath, he was also observing Flando, who was praying with her eyes closed. His mental power began to be highly concentrated, searching seriously. There really is such a God. Hiss. The authority of the Holy Light Law at the same level as the Holy Light Goddess. The Holy Light Church follows the one God. Where did this guy come from? Wright had a bad feeling in his heart. Something big might happen in this holy ceremony. Okay, I have made the oath. Your Highness, can we start? Looking at the triumphant Flando, Wright laughed. Why, are you so impatient to be a maid? Well, then I will fulfill your wish. After saying that, he strode towards the holy sword in front of the main east gate. With his steps, the holy sword began to tremble slightly, as if there was some kind of resonance between the man and the sword. Such a magical scene caused the onlookers to exclaim in surprise, and Flando's heart was in her throat. You guys don't even know its name, and you're just pulling it out here. As he spoke, Wright had already come to the holy sword, stretched out his hand to hold the hilt, his expression more solemn than ever. When a beam of light shines into the iron tower, the filth inside the iron tower is revealed. Then this beam of light becomes sinful. It becomes evil. If the world is really like this, then let me become this light. Illuminate everything. Listen carefully. This sword. It's called the Sin Light. Clang. The next moment, the joyful sound of the sword, accompanied by the brilliant holy light, penetrated the sky and the earth. Chapter 25. Confrontation with Gods. Under the bright holy light, everyone saw that the holy sword, that had troubled the high-ranking officials of the Holy See for more than 3 years, was being pulled out bit by bit. At the same time, the holy bell of the Holy Metropolis Cathedral began to swing wildly, making a deafening roar. A huge halo of holy light emerged above the main churches of the red, white, and black cathedrals, which seemed to echo the pillar of light that reached the sky at the main east gate. The prisoners in the Iron Tower prison of the Inquisition were wailing and agitated. The holy relics enshrined in the Hall of Valor of the Paladins kept buzzing and trembling for a long time. The entire holy metropolis seemed to have been pressed by an unknown switch and suddenly became active. And the source of all these abnormal movements was from Light and his sinful holy sword. Flando looked at all this in shock, and her heart was extremely flustered. Could it be that he could really pull it out? Just when Light was about to succeed, another holy light descended from the sky and enveloped Light. This holy light was unprecedentedly pure white, and it was rippling with the power of the law. It's the God of Light. The miracle of the God of Light has appeared. Flando hurriedly called on the Protestant believers to kneel down and worship devoutly. Great God of light, you really haven't abandoned your believers. The Knight Commander was also a little shaken now. Protestantism can actually summon the favor of God. How can this be? But why does it feel like His Highness Wright is not affected at all? I know. Emily clapped her hands. It's the Holy Shackle. The seal of the Holy Shackle on Wright has not been lifted. The gods cannot establish a connection with him. Holy Shackle? Is His Highness carrying that kind of thing? Kelst was quite shocked, but then he thought, that's not right. The Holy Shackle can only isolate the connection between the clergy and the believers, and cannot resist the punishment of the gods. Is His Highness's strength so terrifying that even the gods are helpless? Bathed in the holy light, Wright laughed contemptuously. You are equal to her in authority, and she can't stand me, so what can you do to me? But since you have chosen to take action, you have to pay the price. Wright suddenly pulled out the holy sword Synlight, then turned around and slashed towards the sky along the holy light. The holy light sword arc accompanied by a shrill whistle went up against the light and actually split the holy light with the power of law in half. A muffled groan came from the sky, and then the holy light in the sky shattered, and Flando and other new believers instantly lost the connection with the gods. They stared at the sky with dull expressions, unable to understand what had just happened. Wright walked to Flando with the holy sword and patted her face with the sword. Remember to come to my house to work at night, Maid Flando. I hope your business ability is as hard as your mouth. Under Flando's blank gaze, the Synlight holy sword turned into a ball of light and merged into Wright's hand, leaving only a hot gold mark on the back of his hand. Wright turned back to the carriage and waved to the Knight Commander. Your Highness. Your Highness. What do you want? What do you want? Bring people to open the main east gate and maintain order at the same time. Ah. Yes. I'll go right away. Too many things had just happened, and the scene was in chaos. The punishment knights directly conscripted those holy knights to be responsible for maintaining order at the main east gate. But no matter what, the main gate of the holy city, which had been closed for 3 years, was finally reopened because of Wright's return. Beside the carriage, Emily looked at the gold-plated holy symbol on the back of Wright's hand curiously. I didn't expect you to have a holy weapon, and it's so powerful. Then do you know why I left the Synlight in the holy city? Is it to protect this city for you? Wright rolled his eyes at her. Of course not. I left it here because of a big flaw in it. It is precisely because of this flaw that no one has been able to successfully pull it out in the past 3 years. Emily immediately became interested. Flaw? This holy weapon actually has a flaw? Wright sighed, looked up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, and recalled the past. When the Synlight was forged, it was my first year in the holy city. At that time, I was still full of vigor and ambition, and I was an aspiring young man who was about to let go of my ideals. As the first holy weapon I forged with my own hands, the Synlight naturally reflected the mark of my soul at that time. Therefore, it has a quirk. Can a holy weapon have quirks? What quirks? It's just like when I drew the sword just now. I have to do something to show my holiness in front of others, and then this sword will respond to my call. It will even exert superstandard power according to the degree of excitement. On the contrary, this kid will go on strike and not exert any strength at all. For example, cough cough. Wright suddenly summoned the holy sword, put his other hand on Emily's head, and said with a firm expression, "For you, I will do anything, even if I'm the enemy of the world." But the holy sword Synlight made a joyful vibration, and the power fluctuation suddenly increased by more than 1 level. At the same time, Emily's face instantly turned red, and her eyes were a little flustered. What are you talking about all of a sudden? Or, Wright further hugged Emily's shoulders, and whispered murderously to the empty space, "I'm going to take her away today. If you dare to stop me, even if you are a god, I will kill you." The holy sword was even more excited, as if it was going to rush out and kill a god, to cheer the two of them up. The people around were shocked, and Wright almost couldn't hold it. Emily shrank in Wright's arms stupidly, forgetting to struggle, and her ears were red like blood crystals. Wright reluctantly took the holy sword back in his hand. "Do you understand? Only in this way will it be willing to use it for me and exert its power. To be honest, once or twice, it's okay. But if every fight is like a setup poem, first say a few nice words, then make a handsome pose, and then pick up the synlight and kill randomly after the fight is over. After a long time, I will be regarded as a psychopath with a quirk. Wright let go of his hand, and Emily calmed down while tidying her hair. Actually, I think you were pretty handsome just now. Wright shook his head repeatedly. That was in this situation, when you were full of emotions, you felt very handsome. But when you calm down, or when someone mentions it again after a while, it will become a black history that will make people socially dead. So this sword is also called the holy weapon of social death, also called the black history maker. I want to take it out and wander around. 3 years is enough for me to write a book, my social death plus how black history was made. While the two were chatting, there was a commotion in the paladin team in the distance. Brother is coming. Wright looked back and saw a sturdy paladin galloping towards him. When he got close, he turned over and jumped off the horse, and then, as if he had practiced countless times, he slid to his knees and hugged Wright's legs accurately and immediately cried like a 200-pound child. Wow, brother-in-law, you're finally back. I missed you so much, Taylor. I think you're dying. If you call me brother-in-law again, I'll twist your head off and you sit as a chamber pot. Don't try that on me. Get up. I just have something to ask you. Thank you very much for your love. I will definitely work hard to update and bring more joy to everyone. And please read more. Please, this is really important to me. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.